Hello, and this is Spotlight, recorded live here on Grapple Patreon on a Thursday night. I'm Ben.
And I'm JP.
And we're JP, it's a cracking idea to maybe combine your two main shows. You know, if you've got like a slightly longer show and you've got a slightly shorter show that's a bit for the sickos at the weekend, what you should do when there's a big pay-per-view coming up and there's all kinds of, 6 hours worth of wrestling to watch at the weekend, squash them together. Everybody's happy. More content is better content. So yes, that's a good idea. I heard it somewhere, and we're here for a super show Spotlight. We're calling it here on a Thursday night.
Well, if it's good enough for Tony Khan, it's good enough for us, isn't it? You know, content is key, isn't it? That was his policy. That was everything he was saying.
That's what I've heard.
Exactly.
Longer is better. I mean, we've subscribed to that since we started podcasting, but I think it's there's some truth in it.
There is. If we can just have the title of today's show is just great, and we just leave it at that and just go great, then that'll be it. And it's great. And this show is going to be great. And everything in the show is going to be great. And every subject matter we talk about is going to be great. Particularly one of the miscellaneous bits in the introduction. That in particular was fucking great. And I'll bang on about that in a little bit. But yeah, how do we find you?
Can we get 134 greats in? That's the real test.
That's impressive. Like when I watched it, unfortunately, I found myself at times zoning out from some of what he said and just focusing on how many times he said great. And then that was the focus of like most of the show there as well. But we'll come round to that in a little bit. But how do we find you? You're in new digs. It's interesting.
Temporary stay, yeah. I think I'm going to Vietnam on Saturday. I'm pretty sure I'm going on Saturday. I did Matty's Ed in on Sunday on the show explaining that I literally don't know what country I'm going to be in come next week. But I think that's the plan. Obviously, it's Steph's birthday today, so we obviously had it over the weekend. We were celebrating that. I did a nice slap-up meal. A meal that cost me more than a tenner, JP. I'll talk more about that on the pre-show on Sunday. But yeah, sent it off right. Had some great times and stuff. And yeah, we've moved from the very, very plush hotel we were staying in into these. These digs probably look nicer on camera than they actually are in real life. Fingers crossed the internet holds up. But I've set it up. I've got my little like I say, it's become a thing. It's my bit. It's my gimmick at this point. Bit of a New Japan merch in the background. There's a Daryl back there. There's for the eagle-eyed people. There's a little plush Antonio Inoki, which is the latest bit of New Japan merch that I'm bringing out on one of these spotlights or weekend shows. Cost me about £2.50. That JP it was in the bargain bin. Smelt a little bit as well. I'm not saying it smells of old man. I'm just saying. But included it all. Made it feel like home, even if it's not home. But I don't know. More to the point, I was going to ask you, how are you doing after this week? Obviously, we didn't have you on the Sunday show with Matty. You had the kids' birthday parties a go this week.
Yeah.
But after that show, the first thing I did once me, Matty, and Marty finished, me and Steph, like it was one of the last nights here, so we ended up popping out and having a little drink afterwards. We went to this little bar over the road, and like the Island game was just on in the corner. It was on the telly. I didn't really, because I've been recording, really know what had happened. I'd seen little bits in the group chat. I'd seen some celebrations going on, and I just glanced at the screen, and in that very second that I glanced at the screen, I just saw Troy Parrott, or Troy Parra, as I think we used to call him over here in grapple circles, get on the end of something, and the entire place go wild. And I very quickly got caught up on what was going on. Take us through, JP, how your day went on Sunday while we were recording and all that was happening.
So it was Harry's 9th birthday party. It was see, the thing was, on the Thursday, I hadn't expected that Portugal game at all. So I didn't even think that I would even remotely have to care about this. But obviously that game meant something. But it was on bloody early, like 2 PM over here. So I was like, oh, fuck's sakes. Okay, so he's got a gaming van. It's all absolutely fine. I'm keeping an eye on the game. They go 1-0 up after 3 minutes, and they have like 3 corners in the first 2 minutes. I was like, for fuck's sakes. Ireland get a penalty back. Troy Parrott, more of which are on, like ends up scoring that. And then I kind of dip in and out of the game as we're doing various things. And then there's a point where all the kids are playing football. Outside where I live, there's like the road, and then there's this like grassy bit with a pathway. So all the kids are playing football over there, and I'm like, oh, I'll keep an eye on them, thinking I'm just going to look at my phone while this is going on. And they're all playing. There's like a group of 8 and 9-year-olds and everything else. And I'm also like slightly in conversation with one of the other parents. I'm keeping an eye on this, and I'm 95th minute. So I think, oh, we're fucked. We're gone. But it's been such a dreadful campaign for the most part. Surely nothing's going to happen there. Then when he scores it, I just lose it. Just like, just screaming. two kids just start crying because they just think they don't know what's happened. They've just started screaming behind their back. The mum of one of them starts laughing at this, and I'm just like on the floor like this as a couple of the parents arrive to pick up their kids, and they're just like, "Who is this fucking bloke? What's he fucking doing?" And I've just gone, "I'm sorry, I have to explain. I'm a Republic of Ireland fan." To which there'd be a couple of the dads going, "What have you won?" And it's like, "Yeah, we've just won with a 95th minute winner." And after that, like I mean, I spent. It was just like as much like of all of the various viral clips of all of the bars all around the world.
Some good ones. Yeah, that was
Dublin
one.
Airport as well.
Yeah.
And I always think with Troy Parrott scoring, who'd been injured for most of the campaign, and he'd missed certainly the first couple of games. I think he was a sub in the other two as well because he was only just back into full fitness. And obviously, sort of 5 goals in the last 2 games. I just lose my fucking mind about this bloke. And then I do think I was like, we were on the Troy Parrott train about this. He's been Tory Parrott is a name of one of the shows when I went back and looked in there as well about this. But it was the most like I hadn't lost it like that at a football. I'm trying to think the last time I'd lost it. It might have been like being at an Arsenal game with a last minute winner. And there's those moments of euphoria, but it was absolutely insane until Tuesday, where Scotland very much went, okay, hold my beer, and decided to produce a bit of fucking craziness themselves, which was also brilliant to watch. I kind of made up. I don't have any, like, I know some people have some resentment for Scotland. I don't understand why I don't have any myself. Just completely like, it was so good. And then you get like
Save your resentment for Northern Ireland.
Well, have you seen the draws for this? Have you seen how it looks for this?
I'm confused by it. I don't understand. It's like the Champions League this year. Got to play 47 games to get to the World Cup. I don't fully get it. I thought you were qualified already. I don't understand.
Oh, no. All of this fucking stuff is all to do with just getting into a playoff. That shows the level that they're coming from on this. I think, is it Wales, like Northern Ireland have to play Italy. And if they beat them, then they'll play the winner of Wales and I want to say is it Kosovo or is it Sweden? I can't remember. But Ireland have to beat the Czech. It's one, but they're only one-off games. It's not like 2 legs. Ireland have to beat Czechia because Czech Republic has rebranded yet again, doing a bit of a TNA here, going from Czech Republic, which is their Impact Wrestling, to go to then play the winners of, I think, is it Denmark and North Macedonia at home. Wales, Bosnia. Yeah, exactly. But it's not until March. So now, after all of this international football, as you know, like kind of it's just been like every month, like September, October, November. Now it's like there's a break for like 6 months. And who knows what position most of these players are going to be in. Some of them will have moved on. I imagine there'll be a few bids coming in for Troy Parrott as well because he scored a good few goals in Holland. I think it's like
I've heard that.
Yeah, that was the big talk. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't think he's suited for Premier League football. I like the idea of seeing him in the Bundesliga or potentially like an Ajax or a PSV. You could see him doing something along those lines. But yeah, just absolutely insane. Like I've rarely like lost my fucking mind like that as well. And Tommy and Max, they've just got like their Irish citizenship and their passports through. So like they've just decided to embrace this stuff. And it's just like, what heroic failure. Look, okay, lads, this is what we're going to end up doing. But insane. It was brilliant. I mean, I'd like to think Steph lost the plot a bit, no, when she saw this happening.
She did. Yeah.
Good.
Mainly because when she got her Irish passport renewed, when she got home, they said, welcome home. When she came back to Ireland, she was made up with that. Just an extra little bit, we don't really have that feeling as English people. No, I was happy. I was happy for her. I was happy for you. I was happy for Eddie Sideburns. I was happy for Scotland as well. Anything but England, really. I'm not one of those scousers, but that's pretty much how I felt about it all. And yeah, like obviously even with Scotland, I saw like the Scotland football team Twitter, like sharing a video of Grado this week, showing him like celebrating the win. I was like, if there was ever an argument that man is a household name, there it is, proof in the pudding there with our Grado. I was even happy with them. My fandom of Two Doors Down goes a long way, JP. Christmas special coming up this Christmas as well. So no, I was happy for all these. It's just I couldn't tell you what England are up to or what they're doing, but maybe that's it. Maybe I'll find like a relative somehow. I'll get myself an Irish passport at some point, JP. That feels like the rite of passage for a Scouser.
Surely you'd be eligible for one. It appears to me that everyone in that city is
gotta be
due one. I don't know. Maybe north of Southport is where you kind of draw the line. I'm not too sure, but it was brilliant for like what it is. Like very rare, because this is the thing about as frustrating as international football is, the highs are like so much higher than everything else. Like they're so much higher than everything else. Like you just don't have that. Whereas here, like with club football, there's like, it's attritional, isn't it? It's like each and every week is what you get for it. But for this, it was just incredible. Absolutely.
Kneecap sort is a song. They could be like the equivalent to Delamitri doing the Scotland song 30 years ago. That could be the one.
You say that on RTE's coverage, because I always watch the RTE coverage of it. That
doesn't get taken down off Twitter, does it? That's the video footage I saw.
That's the only one. No, and I hate that commentator as well. He's a terrible commentator. He's really rubbish. The other bloke who did the game against Portugal on Thursday is much better. But anyway, I won't bore you with the details of that. But the song they use to go to ad breaks and come back is like an instrumental of Hood by Kneecap that they just use as a casual kind of like, it's a cracking tune. Yeah, exactly.
Sami Zayn's a big fan.
Well, that's it. And I'll tell you what, he should have been getting on board with this. He needs to. This is the route he needs to go. If
get him on the remix.
If football hipsterism is very much his bag, this is the ultimate bag for it. But Christ, what a week! Football. Incredible. I can't think of any other sport that you kind of get this with. Like, I really can't. There's a couple of moments in cricket where I've like lost my shit, like the World Cup final and stuff like that. But this,
Brian Darlington winning the AEW title, maybe throw that in there. You know,
that would have been up there. That would have been. I would say Sting winning the WCW title in '93, just being sat there in a state of shock of like, this shouldn't be happening. I shouldn't be here while this happens. Like, this is the stuff that only happens in America. Doesn't happen over here.
Nigel Bryan's the one where I felt the most patriotic I've ever felt in my life, as I've said on that podcast many times when we've talked about that match, probably 4 different times. I literally went up to Nigel, like, do it for England, Nigel. And I just felt dirty inside. I felt like I was going to get kicked out of Liverpool over it. So yeah, maybe that was wrong. Maybe I need to find a good old Irish wrestler to get behind instead. But no, I was made up for it. It was the first front of mind there for me, and obviously for you, for Jamesy, for Jordan, and all of you lot in that. I feel like we're outnumbered in that little FPL group chat we've got. And like I say, Troy Parra was a very early grapple adoptee, so yeah, he was good in the FPL way back in the day as well. But I was thinking of you when we were coming, obviously, like I mentioned before, we were coming off on Sunday while you were celebrating, recording with. This will get complicated. Me and Matty recorded with Marty Ellis, our newest King of the Mountain. We did a bit of a 1999 law. We looked at one giant year for Mankind on Sunday. We missed you on the show, mate, but we had a hell of a time. Weirdly, we are the one podcast that hasn't actually gone to the well too many times when it comes to the Attitude Era, to the point that it actually felt fresh covering WWF in 1999. I think that's probably just mine and your kind of resistance to covering that era at any point in the last 5 years or so. But I did see Matty was live seeing Mick Foley did a spoken word show apparently in Liverpool.
Yeah,
told some interesting stories. Apparently defended Vince McMahon at one point. We'll just forget about that point. But look well is what Matty said there for a man who suffered a lot, as we saw in 1999. Is the one factor we didn't mention. We got loads of good feedback for it, and it was a cracking first pick from Marty. He thought he did a brilliant job. On there, and he was first King of the Mountain show with us, and that feedback seems to have been felt by a lot of our people on our Discord. But I think it was Paul who pointed out in the Discord the one factor we missed on Sunday, JP, and maybe we needed you there for it, was that in the year 1999, while Mick Foley is pretty much the third guy there, I think we all accept that and admit that it's not Triple H. He's not the third man between Rock, Austin, and then who's the next biggest star. You could even, as dirty as it sounds, make an argument for Vince McMahon instead. It's not The Undertaker. It's very much Mick Foley, but it's Mick Foley on the out. It's Mick Foley on the way out. Mick Foley, going into like the start of 2000s when he does the retirement stuff and puts Triple H over, which he seems to have forgotten at this point in his career. Reminded by Paul on this Discord, JP, 34 years old was young Michael Foley at that point in 99. Finished, done, career over. I don't think there's anything down for the rest of us at this point.
Jesus Christ. And if you think of what he's put into those 30, 40, I mean, he couldn't even walk by that point either, like at the age of 34.
Like when I was a kid, if you told me he was like nearing 50, I think that was all true, and I wouldn't say that about you and Gareth. Or I don't know if you heard the factoid that Matty pulled out about Jesse Ventura's age at SummerSlam 1999 not being quite far off yours and Gareth's age at this point. It catches up to all of us, mate. We've become the old men.
It's terrifying, this. I'm hoping, I'm not going to give any spoilers for the weekend, but like it's something to think about, the way that wrestlers age. I mean, I found this just having watched the Raven documentary. He said his age. I was like, what? It's like, fucking hell.
What is he, like 32?
I'll save it for them when we get to that. I don't know if you've seen this or not, but like
no, I haven't had the chance. Too expensive for my blood, mate. I didn't see the hooky copy until it was too late. It took a while to make it to the Pirates. I said that one.
It did. As soon as it did, straight away I have that. I'm not
These
renting
£10
anything
birthday
out
dinners
for
won't
this.
buy themselves, you know.
Exactly, and I'll let people know whether or not they should fork down some money for this or find other more nefarious methods as well when we get round to it. But yeah, some of these age, I mean, like 34 is incredible. I mean, he's like, when it's like, we did the story on Fridays on the weekend show, and said, oh, he's 60. And I was just like completely bamboozled. I was like, what?
That's how time works.
Like,
that makes sense.
This man has been around like as like an active wrestler, what it feels like since I was a little kid. And turns out I'm 13 years younger than him. Like, what the fuck? Like, how has this happened? But he is, apparently he's in much better nick now, isn't he? He's got a new hip, new knee. And apparently on that live show, he doesn't talk anything about Al Snow. He doesn't go into a lot of Al Snow stories that used to be, it used to be the staple of everything he did, didn't it? That was all. Yeah. That was all he ever did.
Maybe it's because Al Snow's moved to Brit Res now and he's become one of us out here. Maybe that's the reason why. But no, I'm sure he's got other stories. Maybe Matty on the Sunday show, on the pre-show, can tell us more about what Foley was up to. I'm sure there's a mark somewhere with old Michael Foley and young Matthew Edwards at some point. Platt doing the Lord's work there with the Raven documentary. But we'll talk more that later. One quick other plug before we do get there. You did mention it there. Platt did correct me before. It is Saturday, I believe. Platt saying I didn't check the schedule. What do you think does the schedule, mate? Does it? I think the last time anybody else on this fucking podcast edited that playlist or that schedule, it might surprise you, to be honest. But I did make a mistake. It is actually a Saturday night, the show. We believe. I haven't heard from Joe Schedule himself, or Matty. I believe we're doing that live on Saturday. We were saying up here maybe around 5ish. I'm assuming Matty's going to want to watch the Liverpool game on Saturday evening, so we'll do it around that, JP. But obviously, you're going to be taking the reins for that one as we have the inaugural. We had the inaugural quiz from Matty. We now have the inaugural JP quiz coming on Saturday evening. So baton has very much been passed to you, mate, and we'll see when it actually takes place.
Yeah, exactly. So we're looking Saturday. They'll build up then to Full Gear. This one, I tell you what, putting a quiz together it's a fucking job. I'll say that much. Particularly because there's bits of it where you're thinking, okay, is this too hard? Is this too niche? And then I think these lads should know this stuff. It's wanting to have like a kind of few fun rounds in there as well, not make it go on for too long as well. Connor has been doing like the Lord's work, helping me out as well with this as well. So I've been in contact with him, showing him a few bits and some ideas and stuff. So it's going to be very much like this. There's some after this show, pretty much that's the thing I'll end up doing while Vicky's watching I'm a Celebrity, get me out of here. It's like, okay, let's just get another round of questions done on here, and let's just see if these ones work, and maybe move the odd one around. But it's a tricky thing, and it's also trying to make sure as well that there's little bits that are like, okay, Benno will like this, or Gareth will like this bit, Matt will definitely like this bit. So, well, I can't give it away. You see, you're gonna have to wait until we get there. Okay. But I'm pumped about doing it. There's just there's two of the rounds in particular that if it comes off, there's one of them that involves technology, so I'm there slightly fearful in case anything goes wrong on here. Rather like tonight, I'm just there like terrified in case like something doesn't work with the internet. So I'm like, fucking hell, that can't happen. on Saturday.
You're
but
born for it, mate. When we came up with the idea of doing the grapple quiz and us taking turns hosting,
yeah,
I know what it is. I just pictured you, mate. I can just imagine you with your geezer hat on in a different life, hosting a pub quiz somewhere around the Oxford area. I feel like there's that's maybe in your future. So this will be your audition on Saturday. So I'm expecting wackiness, but I'm expecting a good time as well. So plenty to look forward to there.
So yeah, that'll be coming out on. We'll be doing that hopefully sort of Saturday early evening. We think so. A nice little build up
ahead of the pay-per-view. That's the plan, is it? Ahead of Full Gear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, nice little sort of build up and the run up to that as well. I'm assuming we'll be doing a pre-show as well beforehand as well. So we're doing a bit of a catch up, and it'll be all four of us on there again. So yeah, really looking forward to that. I'm just praying it all works out well, and that I'm not met with stern faces from the three of you of like, what the hell are these questions? Why are you asking me this stuff? Like all
just
of those.
Stay away from Bam Bam Bigelow, mate. Bam Bam Bigelow and 45-minute AWMT arena matches. If we get away from that, we're doing well. Nope. So we got plenty to look forward to.
We're staying well away from all of that stuff on there. There's a theme for each of the rounds. I'll just say that there is a theme for each of them in there as well. But yeah, it'll go through the Connor filter. Who will and he'll tell me if like, nah, this doesn't work. You need to change this around. So yeah, really looking forward to it, mate. Yeah. So the Grapple Pub quiz, as I think we titled it after the last one. It's back again on Saturday.
The JP Pub quiz. So yeah, look forward to that on Saturday, and play along with us. Join in. I think we got the it worked out so that everyone can join in. I know Connor was doing the hard work last time behind the scenes to make that work. So yeah, should be a fun time on Saturday for all the patrons and all the YouTube members. Patreon.com/grapple, YouTube.com/@grapple. That sends up your street, and yeah, kill some time waiting for Tony Khan's latest 37-hour pay-per-view. But yeah, we've talked around it enough, JP. We do need to talk what's going on in the wrestling world. Like I say, bit of a spotlight weekend show where Monster Baby, the Spotlight Weekender, I think is what I'm officially calling this, JP. So we do have some news to catch up on and some big stories that did happen earlier in the week to talk about. And one thing we almost considered pulling the trigger on that Tuesday Spotlight on Tuesday was this Tony Khan interview with Ariel Helwani. It was being recorded and I think just about wrapped up around the time we were going to start Spotlight. So it would have been a risky game. Is there anything newsworthy enough in this interview for us to force the emergency spotlight button and go forth with it? Turned out to not really be the case. Turned out to mostly be an empty interview. Although I think it's one of those interviews, to be fair, where if you read between the lines, you can actually glean a lot. It's less what he says, it's more what he doesn't say, and what he calls great, as we did note earlier today. It was fucking hilarious watching this thing live on YouTube, and there were literally people in the comments keeping track of the greats. That's a shoot, by the way. 134. Somebody in the chat counted there. Tony Khan describing things as great throughout the show, Ed, and yeah, it was so funny watching him stand on those landmines and throw that out, while at the same time, to be fair, avoiding a lot of other landmines and controversy, and you could feel the media training coming out of his paws. I thought Ariel Helwani was overly nice in trying to like squash that beef and trying to you gave me a much better interview this time, Tony. I'm not sure he answered that many more questions than he did last time. I felt quite similar to the previous interview, but like I say, there were little things there, fair enough, in that, Ariel Helwani asking about Chris Jericho and Tony Khan giving a non-answer to the point where you can very much read into the fact, I think Jericho's done with AEW. Same with Britt Baker, although he's been asked that before. Got a bit of an update on Will Ospreay. We definitely got an interested update on Karrion Kross, which felt like Ariel Helwani's like biggest question there. Like, how would you possibly not be signing this fantastic wrestler, Karrion Kross? And Tony dodged that one to the point where I was like, yep, Tony does not rate him whatsoever. So you could read into that too. Obviously, there's the Punk stuff we can get into as well. But yeah, did you get much from watching this one, JP? And were you in the live chat counting the greats along with me and everybody else on Tuesday night?
I wasn't in the live chat. It was Molly's birthday on that one as well. So like when it started, I hadn't.
Is it anyone's birthday in March? We probably need to clear your schedule in March for these Island playoffs. We need to figure this out. Mate.
Yeah,
need to plan this.
No, it fucking isn't. Thank God.
Oh, that's cool.
No. Thank God for that. Yeah, March 26th for the first one there. No, so I thought it was. I think you've hit the nail on the head with the media training side of it. He does as. It's almost like it's the best kind of almost version of non-answers that anyone can kind of give within a wrestling space. The dynamic with him and Ariel Helwani was really interesting, because it was almost like Ariel Helwani was like, "Oh, we've got off on the wrong foot. We've got these beefs," and what is it? By all accounts, there's a story. There's only one person who is completely like burnt their bridge going back to AEW, and it's not fucking CM Punk. And if you figure what he did, it's like I don't think Tony holds grudges in that
No,
way.
it doesn't seem like that.
It was interesting because it was I kept on trying to think, okay, how would Nick Khan and Triple H answer these types of questions if they were being asked about them? Because I just got like the maybe it's just me. I just got the feeling from Ariel Helwani that, I mean, everything is kind of softballed that really for them as well. There's never they don't get any kind of tough questions. They don't get anything kind of close to this. And I'm not even saying that these questions are particularly tough. He's not asking them about like what is your drug policy or anything along those lines. You're not asking them things.
Harder. You know, when Tony says things like AEW's doing great, and he's like, he never pushes back and goes, yeah, but like, look at like, he doesn't bring up like examples and numbers like year on year, like these numbers kind of show that maybe things aren't quite so great. Or, the Punk answer when he answered about, putting the footage on Dynamite, and he said it did a good number. I felt very Vince Russo pilled him. I was like, yeah, it did a good number. But what has happened since then? Is there any negatives to it? There were loads of follow-ups I think Ariel could have asked and could have pushed him harder to the point that it did feel like he was, he was asking questions, but he was softballing them, not too dissimilar from the way he deals with WWE adjacent people too.
Well, yeah, that's it. When he asked about the numbers, I've always found this, because it was like, okay, we did a really big rating for Blood and Guts, did 600,000, and he's like, and also we've done really good streaming numbers on HBO Max. And he's like, what are those streaming numbers? Yes. I don't know. You don't know.
Are they thousands? Are they tens of thousands? Are they hundreds of thousands? Are they millions? Even the Saudi blood money question where he said to him, "Oh, what should isn't it interesting that you're the only sports entity that's not working with the Saudis?" And Tony's like, "Oh, I've never thought that." It's like, Tony, we've seen you on Twitter talking about Saudi blood money in conversations while you're having flame wars with, was it Randy Orton he was going off on one day? Like, message board Tony obviously got left at the door here, but you could have pushed him and gone, "Well, but hang on, Tony, you've referenced this before." Obviously, Tony being careful in case it does come out they've got they end up getting Saudi money, or like they've got a business connection with the Qataris or something like that comes out today at some point. Like, he was clearly being very careful.
Well, that's actually interesting with the news that kind of came out today about, was it Paramount are wanting to tie in with some of the wealth management funds that are either in Saudi and Qatar and the UAE about possibly buying Warner Brothers Discovery, which would in turn be making him work with the Saudis in that way. So like that's one I always think to kind of slightly keep an eye on that as well. But it was a really, I mean, don't get me wrong, he's actually a very good guest, just in terms of being able to answer the majority of things in a way that felt like you were being given some kind of an answer, even if that he's always going to hold stuff back. That's in his nature. That's the media training. That's the legal team saying, well, there's only these are the areas you can't go through. But he deals with those kind of things quite well. When he came in, by the way, and he was like, "Oh, just watching the England U21s beating Slovakia 4-1 and 4-0," and I honestly want someone to go,
it's the most
under
American
21.
way to say that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, what does U21 mean? To anyone, was in the name of a fucking bus,
sounds like a bus.
U571. Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, exactly, like a fucking bus. It's like, how does that work?
Belfast.
Yeah, and he's bigging up Josh King to him as well, and then talking about the great rivalry between Fulham and Forest, and it's like, I don't know, mate. I don't think there's like fights on the fucking streets of Hammersmith, when Forest come to town. It's not a big rivalry, and also, Forest have been relegated at various points. They've not been in the Premier League for a massive amount of time. So I don't know what this rivalry is, but anyway, I digress. His best answer, I think, was actually about the point of counter programming, and he took it as like, and admittedly, he took the high road on a lot of these answers.
Yeah, I didn't like that. I missed poster Tony. I wanted him to go into put it on like he used to. But again, he's thinking of the headlines, isn't he? He's thinking of what could be printed tomorrow on deadcheatcentral.com.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like the answers he's giving. Like, I mean, he gives like a very Tony Khan, I've read all the Observers kind of answer of like, well, this is like when,
historic,
in order to, historic, when WWF would send wrestlers to Smoky Mountain in order to kind of take away interest from WCW. And you just think, oh, okay, things like that. And the counter programming and taking it as like a compliment. That they are thinking about you, they are worried by you. This is why they're doing it as well. I mean, he didn't sort of mention any of the sort of nefarious stuff. He was just like, at that point, very much, we are the challenger brand, we are the challenger brand, we are the challenger brand. And he's got his kind of
and
stock
there's an interesting
answers.
story there as well, isn't there? There's a more interesting story. If there was more detail there, and they're like, it never hurt us. We moved to an afternoon, and that was amazing too. And it's like, well, you moved to an afternoon, and yes, it still did well. Like, tell us more about that. Why aren't you doing afternoons? For the next few pay-per-views, we'd all prefer it, obviously. Like, there's obviously more squeeze there, isn't there? There's more give and take. It's like, okay, it didn't hurt you in that regard, but did it hurt you from a ticket sales point of view, or did it, hurt you, but not as much as it could have hurt you? Like, he was no-selling all of it, to the point where, again, I wish there were follow-ups. I wish there were more questions that maybe if Ariel wasn't, dancing around it, trying to keep him happy and trying to make sure he gets future interviews with him, might have been asked.
I still think he'll get future interviews just based on his own name, actually, for Helwani. Within this space, in terms of people who are going to have like a serious conversation about pro wrestling, Helwani seems to have like adopted that as well. I mean, it's kind of a necessary evil from a business perspective that he's done this as well. But I also don't know, is Helwani still do work with WWE? Because obviously we saw him on pre-shows. He did a voiceover, I think, for one of the shows. Yeah, that's not really a lot that's kind of said there.
Maybe obviously he's got his that to heart. Maybe that's part of it.
Yeah, and the fact that TKO, Dana White, the hatred Dana White has for him as well, whether or not that plays into it. I mean, he mentioned that he Tony's went to Tony's mate. He went to a college game, didn't he? With some ex-footballer and like some fella from the Jaguars, like the general manager or whatnot. They went across and it should have been, shouldn't it? That'd have been that. Well, still got time. Bring him back in, take him out of retirement. But I thought it was like a really. I mean, it was never boring, and that's really the key from an interview perspective. You're never bored. It was like he covered a fair whack of stuff, like you said about Jericho. He's gone. Like, that's what you take from it. He did it in a diplomatic way.
He got basically the Britt Baker answer, didn't he? We're just waiting for the time, and we're very thankful for all of the things you've given us. And it's like you've not answered there, Tony. And you would answer if there was a chance he was coming back anytime soon. Like, that's done. Yeah,
exactly. As is Britt. Rather like, I have to say, it feels like Adam Cole is retired from wrestling. Yeah. That was the other big thing I took from it as well. Like,
Andrade's not coming back. That was the other thing I took. It doesn't feel like it ever. It feels like, I think Andy just lied, didn't he? I think he just lied. He was like, oh yeah, I'm free. I haven't got a contract. And I don't think AEW checked properly. I think that's the way it felt, in the way that Tony didn't want to really comment on it. Although he did, talk about, he left on good terms, which again, didn't have, to be fair, speaking of those broken toys, Miro, he did pretty much confirm what we've all read and believed in the past, that him and Miro couldn't get on the same page and couldn't come to agreement about his booking. We will argue probably just make him do what you want then, instead of only doing 2 jobs the entire time he's there. But fair enough. At least he was clear about that. That seems to be what's happened there. It's like the Punk stuff again. It's boring to kind of go over it again. And that's me saying it as the Punk guy. But even there, he was kind of like going, I didn't agree totally with everything Punk said in the Ariel interview. And Ariel did push back at that point and did kind of try and say, oh, well, what didn't you agree with specifically? And he wouldn't really say. It was just, oh, what's the footage? It speaks for itself. That's all he'd say. Same with the former roster members posting pictures together on Twitter stuff. He kind of tried to be like, well, everyone seems happier and I'm happier and AEW's doing great right now. We got a pay-per-view on Saturday. And he kind of went into that mode a little bit, You would, in the past, he might have taken that bait. Maybe in the distant past at this point, but I can't say I didn't wish for it to come back at some of those moments. It would have made for good copy if he had done. It would have made for some good audio. It would have made for some interest. Again, that's the reason he doesn't.
Yeah, that's it. The thing that bothered me, I suppose, with the lack of pushback was when it went into the business side, because, and there would be some answers that he could give, like, well, we're not running big venues anymore. We're not running some of these venues anymore. There was there's a general softening in the business. He could have blamed the economy, all number of things, if he wanted to go down that route and say, well, actually, we're running these more intimate venues, and exactly,
interest is down, and we're, like the Premier League team who's not doing quite as well as they were before. Yeah, results aren't what we want them to be, but we're getting all things in the right place, and I think we're gonna have a better season next year. I'd love a bit of attrition like that from him, and you're never getting it with the way he is now, but a little bit of it.
A little bit would have been nice. But then, at least he didn't. I mean, I see. I even think like Triple H wouldn't even entertain giving a kind of an answer for it. Nick Khan would go into pure management speak in order to kind of like just dance around it, and there wouldn't be a follow up there. And Helwani would know. Like, I don't suspect that if he had pushed him more, it would have been Tony Khan then saying to AEW wrestlers, right, you cannot appear on the Ariel Helwani show. You can't do this. Whereas for WWE, you're very much aware that that is a viable threat, that they will pull that access away and they'll do it in a heartbeat, and they won't feel remotely bad about it. They'll just feel like they're above it and they don't need it anyway. But it was like, you still want that, don't you? You still want that bit of pushback, particularly on some of those numbers, particularly the HBO Max thing, which is just so clouded in mystery, and it's like kind of like so vague. It's just like, you know, yes, you love Warner Brothers Discovery, mate. We fucking get that. That's not in doubt.
We have a great relationship. Like, that's not really answering the question. So, but I get it also. Like, you know, been in Ariel's position when you ask someone a question and they talk for 30 minutes and you unfortunately don't get your follow up in, like that. You know, that's part of the game as well, isn't it? So understandable, but like I say, I found it a frustrating interview, but also, like I say, there's a few news stories that are a little bit enlightening there as well. So, and we also know that AEW Full Gear is taking place on Saturday evening too, so we made sure to get that over too, as well as a 3-hour Dynamite on Wednesday, and that is going to be great with the greatest wrestler in the world. So at least we learned those things as well. But yeah, interesting it even happened in the first place, and we'll see what follows on for it. But unless you've got more on that, obviously we're going to talk more AEW later in the show, and we get to Dynamite, and kind of structured like a weekend show. We'll get to the big preview of Full Gear, but unless you've got more on that, JP, some other bits of wrestling news to kind of to get into, and a few interesting little talking points across the wrestling world also going on this week. Yeah, there really is. I mean, there's a follow-up. We've been following this story for the last few weeks on here. The Wrestle Kingdom 20 tickets, I mentioned this on the news dump. They have sold. The initial tickets have sold out. They have added more seats. Now, that does not mean the Tokyo Dome is sold out, in case anyone is thinking about this in as well. But exactly, it's a good clickbait headline. It suggests it's around 40,000. I would have thought that's the initial setup of what they do, because when you look at it as a wide shot, you can see, obviously, there's a massive stage. So there's almost like a quarter of the dome doesn't feel like accessible for this. And there's always quite large spaces on the floor as well. But that isn't the case. But instead, now they are going to be offering out that extra seating in there. So what they said in their social media post was, thank you. We have sold out our configuration for Wrestle Kingdom 20 in the Tokyo Dome 7 weeks in advance. Extra seating will be opened in the coming days. You can still have a chance of making it there as well in there. So the sold out, they are going to be absolutely fine for this in there. I mean, by, like say, November 4th, they'd already sold 31,500. So at this stage, all arena A, B, and C seats and the 1 million yen Tanahashi retirement special seats, whatever that means, they're also all sold out in there as well. So, like, and at this stage, we still only have 5 matches. I don't know if that's a lot. Sounds a lot. I think it's a lot. Once you get into millions, unless it's Vietnamese dong, it's a lot, no matter what the currency is.
Yeah, exactly. Although, if you ever watch Squid Game, I think it's like billions of won, isn't it? Is the currency there? Yeah, I mean, only 5 matches announced so far. That's all we have at this point in time, still at this stage. But you know, like I say, we've got the extra tickets.
I mean, we talked it on Weekend Show, but is it purely Tanahashi's retirement? Is it? I mean, it sounds like it's a card based on when the tickets have moved over the last week or so. And I know Meltzer was given a card for all the credit in the Observer this week. Tells you like something like as far as the level of draw he is. And is he in the Observer Hall of Fame already? I presume he is.
Yeah, he is.
If not, add that. Well, there you go. Add that to his case. Put him in twice. Maybe explains why we shouldn't be putting people in until they're fully retired. But it's probably that, isn't it? Probably a little bit of Adam Wolf, as we talked about on the Weekend Show. You know, the interest and national attention surrounding that as well. Like nearly 5,000 tickets, moved. Oh, it's only 5K. Sorry, Platters. is saying here is what the big tickets are. But I'm pretty sure that's what how many were shifted this week on Okada's name too. It's all of the factors coming together, isn't it? And again, as we keep saying every time this story comes up, shop window time, isn't it, to put your best foot forward and get those people to come back. Whether New Japan will do that or not is another thing. But it's a gigantic story, and like I say, it didn't even when we went through this on Weekend Show at the end of the week and we didn't have the numbers and it wasn't official. It sounded like it couldn't possibly be true, but it seems to be very much true at this point. The tickets are moving this well.
It is, and it's almost like I think there might be 4 reasons. The biggest of which, Tanahashi's retirement. In terms of getting all of the proper fans out there, that's going to be the big thing there as well. After that, the Okada announcement, that's going to be massive. The Aaron Wolf, in order to get that mainstream interest, and the fact it's on a weekend. I think all of those things are going to be really, really big deals. There appears to be a crisis in the background here. I'm sure you can hear it going on in the background. Just bear with me for 2 minutes.
Well, there we are. That's where we are as JP deals with as crisis. But it's a gigantic story, that, and it's one that we will continue to follow. And another gigantic story that, again, we talked about a little bit on the Weekend Show, but developed over the weekend, is whatever the fuck is going on at TNA this week. And obviously, there's multifaceted parts of this. We're not going to be going through a full TNA Turning Point review this week. Don't expect that from us. But obviously, there were a few newsworthy things happening this week. We talked on Weekend Show about Kazarian. Yes, you haven't heard that wrongly. Becoming the new TNA Wrestling Champion at the Impact taping at the weekend. So yeah, Santana, if you were keeping count, 0 live appearances on TNA, 0 tapings, and about 34 minutes of actual screen time before he lost the TNA title. It got worse, as Sean Rassap points out here over here, rewritten on Reddit here, that TNA were, for their media people, trying to get the story out that Santana was not happy about losing the TNA title and hadn't turned up to TNA Turning Point, which, again, we're not the first to say it, we won't be the last to say it. A horrible, horrible story to try and plant in the media and try and use Sean Rassap and try and use the different news organizations, some of which fell for it, to kind of get your story over in the face of, Santana having very, very real life, struggles with mental health and addiction and other things. And all those things came front of mind when the story first came out on Saturday before Sean Rassap threw cold water on it. If that wasn't bad enough, JP, obviously we had that bad headline. We then had that followed up by the Santana headline, who did turn up in the main event of Turning Point. Then we had the story of it. It was Jacob Cohen, wasn't it, getting chucked out of Turning Point for daring to tweet what was going on in the matches. That seems to be rectified at this point as well. I know, by the way, they've got an AMC deal potentially coming up, but like TNA, like they can't buy a win, can they? For a PR point of view, you got an NXT invasion. Maybe that could make people happy as well. But just unbelievable considering they spent 18 months building up this Santana win, only to let all that goodwill dissipate and throw it all away just in the course of what feels like about 4 days at this point.
Just an I mean, I would say it feels like an absolute shambles. It's TNA.
It feels TNA.
This is what they did. Yeah. How to steal defeat from the jaws of victory.
TNA. I feel like we've done that before, but it felt right to do it again. I feel like I called Spotlight that again this week too.
I think you could. I think if we go through previous times of this being it'd be LOL TNA version 25 at this stage. It's ridiculous I mean, it was the thing about just going from the fact that, like you say, they've done this build for Santana. They kind of missed the boat. Let's face it. All the empty seats at Bound for Glory kind of told you that he wasn't a draw. It was if it was if they weren't giving away tickets, and they were certainly lying about how many tickets they'd actually sold, but it was the tables match. It was the Hardys and the Dudleys. That was the kind of the draw on the night, and they missed the boat with Santana for that. And how did they follow that up? They took a month off, which may well have been planned in advance, but that's just not good planning. Take it off around, I don't know, between Christmas and New Year, sort of mid December to mid-January. Maybe that would have been a better time if you were insistent on taking time off when it's holiday season and, TV schedules can be a bit messy in terms of how many people you can get. But anyway, I digress on that. Then the stuff like taking the belt off Santana on night one of this is ridiculous.
On a random Impact. And to Kazarian, which is the bit that's got lost in this. The Bullet Club onto Kazarian. Jesus.
Well, the thing is, as a mid-card heel in TNA in 2025 TNA, and maybe me sticking up for Kaz, this might be my long-term TNA fandom coming through. He's fine for that role. Have him working with younger guys. If anything, he should be working for like a Leon Slater or something like that. And even then, I wouldn't want him to be going over Leon Slater. But that, I'd be kind of fine with that. Not this. This is just ridiculous. And then, like, in all of this, it feels like, well, Santana's deal is apparently coming up. So you're like, right, so he's going to be off. So why didn't you put the belt on him earlier, which would have made so much more sense for them to be able to do? And then they could have built to someone else from NXT challenging at Bound for Glory for his title. And then you could have had him losing the title then, a couple of weeks later, if he is going to be going off to WWE, where, let's face it, within NXT, he'd be a really good fit in there. It just, you look at this and you just think it's the least surprising thing in the world. The AMC story, in terms of the amount that they want. I mean, AMC, I said this on the news, doesn't carry the same cachet that it once did. Like, its biggest ever hit, really. And I wouldn't say it's Breaking Bad. I feel more like Breaking Bad is more of a Netflix. When it goes into Netflix, that's where the real success of Breaking Bad happens. It's not so much just AMC.
No, it's true.
It's Walking Dead. And Walking Dead, they rinsed within an inch of its life, and it just gotten to the point where
how long ago was that now?
Oh God! Like, I had to take a break from it for like 6-7 years, and then end up finishing it because I was like, oh, reasonably close to the end. Let's have a watch of this. And I watched it, the last episode, and I was like, that was shit. That was like a waste of time. They've done the spin-off ones. They just feel like they don't get any kind of traction whatsoever. They just sort of jump the shark. And it doesn't feel like a good fit for wrestling, if I'm honest. It feels like the sort of stuff that AMC wants to do is very much HBO light. And it doesn't feel like that demographic is really what they're aiming for. They're going to be aiming for like ABC One, relatively like good income earners, which is not the audience that wrestling historically attracts. So I can't see them paying that much, but maybe it's that game of inches and everything else. I don't know. I'll believe it when I see it, because we've seen this now so many times in the TV deal. I think they're just throwing names out there and trying to see if it gains any traction in the press for that. But yeah, Chris says here, TNA has been Walking Dead since 2010, so it does fit. But yeah, there was no like kind of the only area, and we've been good, we've always said this, is it's the live attendance. The live attendance it's done all right. And even Turning Point it's sold out full sale. That wouldn't have been a guaranteed thing, like, a couple of years ago. Would that be the case? But but the houses are massively up. But you just look at it and you just think, well, it's hard. This has always been historically the problem, is that they cut the legs of the person they should go with, which then for a lot of fans, you just think, well, why would I bother? Because the people I really like are never going to be in that position. And it feels like, they're just itching to put the title on Nick Nemeth again. This is the kind of company that it is, isn't it? It's ridiculous.
Well, do we want to take the layup to talk some WWE with Nick Nemeth? Should we save the Raven documentary? Do you want to talk it later? We'll build up to it.
Talk it later. Yeah.
Talk it later. Well, I'll take that layup then, JP. And in Nick Nemeth, the other big thing we're going to talk about this week, TNA adjacent, as all their stars do sound like believing. We talked, obviously, Joe Hendry signing with WWE. A lot of people expected him to be the man turning up on Raw this week. What have you made of this 2010s reunion that's going on at WWE? I feel like it's a bigger conversation this podcast, but I feel like this entire Cena run, who apparently is apparently going to be going in the WWE Hall of Fame at the start of next year, it's just reminded me that I've never really liked John Cena. I was trying to verbalize this. I was having a little back chat with maybe a fellow podcaster this week, trying to put it in terms that it's like, I'm not sure I can say this on a podcast, or I don't think I've ever felt confident enough to say on a podcast, I just don't like John Cena. And I know that's not that most controversial I take, but I feel like I really felt it this year, and that when the Umaga match is the comeback that a lot of people are going to go on when you talk about, Cena's legacy and his great stuff he's done over the years. And I always feel like there's this part of me that wants to defend Cena and see what other people don't see in John Cena, and going, oh, he's this Sting type big time babyface that's great at selling, and he's a babyface and mega over to a big portion of the audience for a reason, forgetting the fact that there's always been 30 to 40% of the WWE audience that didn't want him in the position. But, you know, he's so good at all those other things, and all those people don't see it. I feel like this WWE run is very much, this retirement run in 2025 has very much been me going, oh, maybe that's just shit people say. Oh, maybe all the criticisms that I've kind of internalized over the years about John Cena have absolutely been true. And I will say, the last couple of months or so, it's been fun, the John Cena stuff, you know, since the abandoned the heel stuff, and they've gone forward with him as a babyface. There's been fun stuff. Raw this week had fun moments. It had a fun 6-man tag with John Cena on there, underscoring the word fun. I thought the Dominic Mysterio match, we talked about it last week, was again fun, and it seems like we're going to continue to have that fun right up until the point that hopefully Gunther murders him on his way out. But like, there is still also a stink of 2010s about the man, and like, the choices he had made for this John Cena tournament, the C1, I think. Well, I can't call it the C1. That's the Continental Classic, isn't it? The Cena one that's been going on this year. The fact that it is, of course, a payback to his promo with CM Punk. The Matty's brought back is Matt Cardona, and of course the Nicky's brought back is Nick Nemeth. I mean, we're just Alberto Del Rio and Cope, who Tony Khan dodged the question about on the early interview, away from doing a full 2010s to the reunion, and it couldn't be further from what I actually want to see at any point in wrestling. Is just maybe dig in even more, JP, despite, you know, the obviously good-natured stuff that's going around it. But yeah, what have you made of Cena's run this week? And were you shocked to see Matthew Cardona and yes, Dolph Ziggler, who got a mega pop from the MSG card on Raw back in WWE? It seems for one night only.
Yeah, and for them, it should only be one night only. Like, if you see how he's done outside of WWE, this isn't a guy who's got like long-term juice. As a pop in the run-up to try and build some interest in the Cena one, then yeah, fine, I can kind of get it. It's very much from I think of what Gareth says about what the WWE playbook is of stuff, and quite often it's like surprise pop, surprise pop, surprise pop. So I would have been shocked if Matt Cardona / Zack Ryder wasn't in this. That just feels like, because there's no ties, there's no political issues for getting him in there as well. And obviously
it seems like they very clearly laugh at him behind his back. Like, as soon as he got that picture done with Triple H where he had like the big false tan and his teeth were shining, and Triple H 100% sent a text to Shawn Michaels, get a load of this dickhead. Like, 100% they're laughing at him behind his back. There is always that element of it.
Oh yeah, and that will never, because that's the way those blokes are. That's the way they are real in reality. I'm sure Shawn Michaels does that in whatever church he pretends to be praying in as well. He does that about other people, other parishioners there. Nah, he never will change. And to expect him to change would just be like the definition of insanity. It's just who the bloke is. I mean, are they going to appear once Cena is gone and out of the company, this kind of like nostalgia for the 2010s? I find it hard to believe. I think the only thing that Matt Cardona's got in his favour is essentially it's the Chelsea Green relationship, and is she going to get to the point where it makes sense to kind of bring him in? But then how old is he now at this point as well? And he earns good coin.
He's 40. He's a young man. You know?
Yeah, he's 40. But then he'd just be...
I still think it's funny as well, though, because like, obviously, like the indie god stuff is like overblown, and the deathmatch god and all that stuff about how what you got. All we all remember really is the build to that one match with Nick Gage, and then none of us have watched GCW since. Like, we're all lying when we pretend he's had this great indie run, but he's worked it enough that he's got his name out there. He's worked it enough that he's gotten, you know, these paydays from all of these indies all over, and he's done something, I think, that he should probably be proud of. It's just very funny that none of that means anything, and it's still in a Triple H WWE that, like, the second they're putting you back on television, well, you're Zack Ryder again, aren't you? You're getting the radio song, and we're bringing out a T-shirt with it, you know it on it. Same for Ziggler, you know. Nick Nemeth is obviously his name in TNA. TNA partner. He's immediately Dolph Ziggler, isn't he, when he's back on their TV? But yeah, again, it felt like the Cardona one, which on a human level, you can just tell, like, whatever he says about being the deathmatch king and being this indie god and all that stuff, and Kevin Owens made fun of him for it. He never means any of it. Really, what would actually make him happy is being back in WWE, and you can just tell they know that too. And they're like, all right, you'll give you this one off, but we're not going to give you a backslap for getting your own name over. You're immediately Zack Ryder again. It's a one and done, and I don't think they'll ever bring him back. I think that's it. It was a favor to John Cena. We're more likely to see Dolph back because Dolph actually did a decent job on Raw with Solo Sikoa of all people. He bumped like a madman for him and got him over to the point where you could imagine people backstage going, "Why did we let Dolph go again?" And then, in about 10 weeks of seeing him do the same match over and over again, you're reminded why you got rid of Dolph again. But like, he probably did more and probably has more of a chance of coming back. Jeff Hardy's probably got more of a chance of coming back than Matt Cardona does.
They always felt so. I mean, there was always the potential at one point in time with Zack Ryder. Were they going to do? I mean, it was never something that I was into, but there was a point where, but I think there was a point where the fan base wanted it, but I think the fan base just wanted somebody different. And it was a way of rebelling against Vince McMahon on a sort of a bigger scale.
I was doing it too. I used to watch True Long Island Z Stories or whatever it was on Facebook. Is that where he used to post it, or was it YouTube? I can't remember. Yeah. I used to watch it, I cheered along. I was happy when he got a picture backstage with Brian and Punk and all the other indie darlings.
And he was an early adopter to a lot of that stuff on there. But you mentioned, like, within the system, like...
And it should be applauded. He got himself over. He did, that is a skill.
That is. And he's someone who knows how to make a living within wrestling. It's just that he's got all of the various things between that, the Major Brothers and all the various indie runs and things like that, of always sort of feeling like he's in there and around. Whereas Dolph Ziggler always has that, because of that tenure, that length of time he spent in WWE. That was the thing, that run, it made him feel like he was a lifer. So there's that point of, we'll see how you do on the outside, which we've seen within TNA. It was, I don't think he generated any interest. He just came along at a time that they were doing the NXT relationships. The houses were up, and he was a champion for a small period of time at the beginning. And now what is he? He's in a tag team with his brother. Like, for the most part, that kind of feels like where he is. But I could see them bringing him back more than like sort of bringing in, like, say, Matt Cardona, unless there's like a political change to bring him in. But then you get into the ages, and I think this is like it's a story around WWE that isn't perhaps reported as much, which is this whole idea that, it's quite an aging roster. There's a lot of people around that age. Do they need another couple of guys? Those nostalgia pops aren't going to last forever. Could they appear in the Rumble? Yeah, sure. But then would it mean anything? Well, probably not. And that's really as far as it is. I could see, like I say, Dolph Ziggler coming back in, but they don't need them. They're not essential. No. And I don't think AEW are going for them either. And Japan, we saw with Nick Nemeth, it was an absolute bust.
Filing under of a carrying cross under AEW aren't ever going to properly go for it again. But Cody got him in, didn't he, for that one cup of coffee, and then Tony never called him back. These things are going to happen. There might be a reason for it, but it's funny that we're the old. I know we sound like miserable old men here, but we are the old men who are looking at the kids going, "What? You got nostalgia for the 2010s?" But there are kids who have nostalgia for the 2010s WWE. And again, seeing Sheamus and Rey Mysterio team up with John Cena was a lot of people's childhoods. Again, did not have that on my bingo card there. On a Monday Night Raw, in John Cena's final ever Monday Night Raw match, he will be working opposite and having bumped for him Jordan Devlin. And again, obviously that has been very much muddied at this point, but still had a wacky fact to see. But it put a lot of smiles on some faces, and surely that's what we're all here to do. As did the other big story on Raw this week, JP, which was obviously the setup for War Games, and they did the old Triple H's favorite, throwing up the end credits before Roman Reigns came back on Raw. I think the crowd chanting his name while Lesnar stood in the ring probably told you most people were expecting it to happen. But you say 2010's nostalgia, obviously AJ Lee returning as well, and very much the War Games matches. We won't spend too much time on this. Just they feel like the equivalent of what AEW did with the women's blood and guts match this year, and it's like we haven't really got a story that kind of ends this, and injuries, of course, of all kinds of problems. So fuck it, let's just put all the stars in, and that's pretty much what this is. And it's a team of all-star babyfaces against, to a point, a team of all-star heels on the men's side, and that seems to very much be what they're going for here.
And it'll be completely anodyne as well, won't it? Like, that's the thing.
Someone's getting speared through a guardrail, like what happened on Raw.
Yeah, and that'll be as extreme as it gets. You're not getting a Sky Blue bloodbath or a Kyle O'Reilly bloodbath. You're not getting any of that stuff in there. You're not getting. Ricky Steamboat said. To
be fair, we said too. Well, but anyway, Ricky Steamboat said it in a lesser.
That's what I did find funny, and I did see this today as well, which is the how many times has there been an announcement of Roman Reigns returning? I don't know if you saw this.
Is that real? Fucking hell.
Yeah, apparently it is. Apparently
That's
this
more
is
times
like
than Tony Khan said. Great.
Yeah, it's like 32 times or something. Like Roman Reigns returns. This is where it is at. Like, this is the thing. And it comes back to what are the tried and true things that they feel works. It's like, oh, look, Roman Reigns is returning. Roman Reigns is returning. I mean, none of it is a particular surprise.
It did a good YouTube number, and people will be happy to see Roman back, you know? There was some talk he might not be back until after Christmas, as much as it seems signposted for them to counter Lesnar.
But it's a stadium show as well, isn't it? I was looking at the numbers for this, and it's around like 30. I want to say they've got the configuration up for about 35,000, of which I think they've sold about 32,000. And so they're just going to feel that they need to throw this in order to kind of like try and open up a few more spaces, try and get that number up to 45,000. I mean, I'd still feel like the problem is it's a law of diminishing returns of having these guys like, you know, promoting their returns. They're not things that engage me like on a personal level, but then I know I'm not necessarily like the target audience per se for it. I can't get enthused. I mean, it feels like I've seen as good as War Games matches are going to be with the two that we saw, and particularly the women's one that we saw in Blood and Guts. These are just going to feel like the family-friendly versions of these, with kind of like the odd hard Kane shot. I couldn't really give a shit about stuff like that. And like I say, it's not.
Punk and Lesnar doesn't float your boat. That was interesting to see them interacting.
Yeah, but then I think it would have done if it'd come completely out of the blue.
Was teased on Raw, obviously, that's a fresh interaction, isn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong.
It is.
Correct me. I don't think we've seen that.
Yeah, that is a fresh one. But I thought that the WrestleMania Vegas advert kind of ended up putting the idea of these like kind of programs in my head of thinking, oh, actually, that could be the route they go down. So then when they start, I'll be intrigued to see what they do kind of like in terms of angles and trying to kind of like build and develop it. But
and Raw had a lot of them. Raw was busy. Raw had a lot going on. We're about to talk about a show that didn't have a lot going on. You at least give it that. A lot of fucking things happened on Raw this week.
See, this is the thing. I only saw like some like YouTube highlights of Raw this week. I didn't have the time to kind of settle down and watch like the full 3 hours. But all of this stuff is in service to just trying to kind of get as big a number as they can do for Survivor Series, and I'm sure that it will have some success to a degree. But like, I don't know, how do you feel going into Survivor Series? Are these things that you're?
I mean, that's what they should be doing. It's what the other channel isn't doing. Like driving interest in the pay-per-view that's coming on. It feels a very this week's Dynamite we're going to talk about feels very AI to me. It feels I was going to say AEW, but that's another thing altogether. But yeah, like I say, there were lots of developments, lots of moments, lots of stuff, like you said there about the YouTube, they can clip and throw on the YouTube that like happened on Raw this week. And that's, to be honest, what's missing in SmackDown. Like it's such a nothing happening show at this point that at least Raw is starting to feel consequential again. And that's, if all else fails, throw the big stars at it. If you don't have a story, if you're doing a War Games just because it happens to be November, well, the best thing you can do is put an all-star team of babyfaces together, can't you? And then put an all-star team of heels together. That's the best. Exactly what AEW pretty much did with the women's division for Blood and Guts as well. So like they are driving at this last minute, driving interest. And again, the Gunther stuff on the show, I think it was good to see him back. I didn't think Javon Evans was as big a performance as maybe Javon needed in the moment, but it was good to see Gunther back. I actually want to see that. I want to be corrected. I want to go back to my no Cena Umaga is all we ever need to remember about John Cena's wrestling career and have an equivalent with Gunther, because Lord knows that's the best chance John Cena's got of having a good match at this point in 2025, outside of doing something fun again with Dominic Mysterio, which I'd definitely watch again based on their interactions on Raw this week. So that's a positive coming up as well. Like it does feel a little bit like they're a bit more clear-sighted in the shows that are coming up.
Could you see them doing a kind of a swerve and having, I don't know, dare I say it, like with someone like a Lesnar costing Gunther like a chance at taking on?
That could be it. That could be exactly what they're doing. setting Gunther up so that they can do Gunther Lesnar at WrestleMania next year and at least get some juice out of Lesnar. Although again, like I say, the Cody tease was the thing that got my interest up here the most it possibly could. But yeah, Gunther having his music back was another big positive there as well. With complete with Walter chants too. Like the crowd really helped this week too. It was a notable Raw, even if I know it's never going to be to your taste, JP. But
Nope.
like, at least things happened, which is not all you can say about the company we're about to talk about.
Oh God, no, for that. But before we get into our Dynamite review, he says in inverted commas, a couple of AEW stories, and it's all about residencies, mate. Love this stuff. The first of which, and I spoke about it again, this was a story I did on the news dump. Collision's going back to Arlington, baby. They are back from Saturday, January 3rd, all the way through to Saturday, January 31st. Just the 17th, it's not there, which I'm assuming is the pay-per-view weekend. So it'll be the case. There'll be the tailgate brawl and things like that are happening in between there. But they're going back to the esports arena there as well. I mean, the good news for this, I mean, I suppose in that if you think of the worst of the residencies in the 2300 arena, that's a dive. And from a technological perspective, it looks very, very bare bones. And, you know, for this, at least it certainly had like the bells and whistles of an esports arena. So having all of the LED screens and having it something that looked bigger on TV than perhaps what it was, which is basically a big hall with LED screens. So they're going back there. They only need to sell about 1,000 or so a time, which I think they'll do. They did it last time in there. Wouldn't surprise me if there was a Ring of Honor pay-per-view or something that they chucked into the mix for something like this as well. But yeah, they're doing those collision, and it's collision tapings. So it feels like a little bit kind of like safer for them to be doing that in there. So yeah, they did the 5 weeks before, and maybe this is like a false memory in my head. It didn't feel like they rinsed it out entirely. Like it didn't, it felt like it'd become like studio TV for like 5 weeks, and maybe it was the novelty of them doing a residency. So that, I think it was the first
ROH for the most part too is the other big part of that.
Yeah, and it worked, and it worked from they had that finite amount of like numbers for it as well, and it saves them a few quid. Like it's the thing from a cost perspective, it makes a smart thing to do. Simon's right here though. It's the lighting for the crowd, but then I think the problem is if you light it too much in that place, it will just look like a big hall. Like for what it is, it's the jazzy stage that kind of makes it look more than what it is. And I think if they do the lights up, it won't look fancy at all. As opposed to say some of the music venues they've done in Houston and Cleveland, where there's, you know, it's not particularly big, but just the aesthetics of how it looks always makes it feel like a much bigger arena than what it actually is. But yeah, it's not the only place they're returning to there as well, though. But they're on their way to Hammerstein Ballroom. They're there for
and they give it a lick of pink as well. Bring back the brown.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't it? They've got what is it? Saturday, December 20th, Sunday, December 21st for Dynamite on 34th Street and Christmas Collision at the Hammerstein Ballroom there as well. And they are also going to be going to Orlando on January 21st in there. They're also going to be going to, somewhere else in Florida, the Addition Financial Arena, and they're going to be going to Tulsa for Dynamite on January 7th there as well. So yeah, they're going back to some of the old haunts on it, none of which is Chicago, which is probably the best thing as well. And at least, again, the Hammerstein looks good for TV. I mean, as someone I've never been there, but at least it has that kind of look and that kind of impression to it as well.
I'm still not sure it does now. I didn't really think much of it last year, and again, that was another one. The bloom was off the rose, but again, it's Christmas time, and they're doing Final Battle, so it makes sense logistically. I just hope they could maybe make it look a bit like the Hammerstein of old there, but just the reality of the situation, isn't it? You know, you've got to. I think we applauded them when they first started doing these residencies, but there's an art to doing it. So let's hope they get these two ones right. But I mean, I had another story in there. I was going to talk the AEW ratings, but correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think we've had the Dynamite rating in there. We've got some ticket detail to talk about as well. But I guess we have to talk about the product, if that's the case, JP. And we don't have any follow up to the what was a monster blood and guts number last week, at least by 2025 new way of counting the numbers standards in the 600,000 range. I imagine it's not going to be up there this week with Dynamite, especially with the last hour of Collision maybe dragging things down. But yeah, we should talk it on the road to Full Gear, which we're obviously going to give the full preview treatment, and maybe we'll get into some of the background of the matches on Full Gear and the go home from Dynamite as far as individual segments go there. But yeah, another 3-hour Dynamite, JP, on a pay-per-view week. How did you? And I know the answer to this. How did you find watching this one and getting it in? Because it's done an original take. I've seen. I think maybe it's just the podcasters who are wrong, JP. I've seen a lot of podcasters complaining about this. That on the week that we're all most likely we live in a charmed life, JP. We get to spend 6 hours watching AEW or whatever it is. Come Saturday night for the pay-per-view. Like, why not add an extra 3 on a Wednesday night to get you ready? An extra 3 that was chock full of in-ring wrestling matches, because that's what Tony Khan loves, and that's what we love as sickos, JP. And there can never be too much of a good thing. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. As I maybe poison the well with some of my thoughts on this week's Go Home Dynamite. It was a show, John Paul. It was a show.
Yes, it was, Richard. It was very much a show. And it was just like being given an extra hour of homework, but for no real discernible reason other than they've got the tailgate brawl on Saturday, so here's an extra hour of Collision. And
this is when you probably could have watched the YouTube highlights for, folks. If anybody tuning into this, by the way, who's thinking, "Oh, I better turn it off," Venom and JP are about to spoil Dynamite for me. We can't. There's literally nothing around the Dynamite that you wouldn't have expected, or is really going to change your enjoyment level of watching Dynamite tomorrow morning, or or Saturday morning, or something like that before the pay-per-view. Or if you're Gareth, when you're catching up with the 12 hours of AEW TV, then I'm sure he's behind that at this point. There's nothing really there that's going to have your enjoyment, I wouldn't say.
I think you could have moved this show before Blood and Guts, and it would have had exactly the same effect.
If it was like a tape Raw in the 90s, you probably wouldn't know the difference.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it was just like, oh, okay, it's 3 hours, and it was just, it was formatted within an inch of its life. It feels like, okay, here's this match.
I thought I was off on one of the week when I was saying that. I made another podcaster say that now, JP. I thought I was just shattered from going back from Tokyo when I was saying, like, I feel like there was a part of my brain that could see the grid lines and Tony Khan's working out when I was watching that Dynamite the first week I came back. Like, I feel like more and more people are feeling that way now watching the show. It's like, is it booked by AI at this point? Is this just AI Tony Khan? Is that what we're getting each week? Because it's just so obviously plotted what they're doing.
Right, exactly. It feels like you're going to Microsoft Copilot and it's like, write me a layout for 3 hours of wrestling TV to promote to promote these matches for the show for the pay-per-view that's up on Saturday. So each one is given generally between 15 to 30 minutes, depending on the importance of that particular story or how long you want that match to go. And then that's it. We move on to the next bit. And it's exactly the same. And then there's a couple of backstage promos that don't really add anything. It's people saying the same things they've been saying ever since those matches have been announced. It's just that, that's it. I'm just like thinking.
The only promos I can remember is Ricochet's weird filibustering one from the start of Dynamite, and obviously the Joe and Hangman stuff at the end of Dynamite. Outside of that, and Joe talking when he did commentary. Outside of that, felt like a show with no talking at all.
Yeah, exactly. And the only thing really about the Joe stuff I remember was when was it Hangman Page said about him doing commentary and he's just not wearing a poncho this time. Like this is like it was so. And this has been a problem is that ever since All In, it's falling back on tropes. I know Forbidden Door build is always weird at the best of times, but definitely since then.
We gave them too much credit there. We were too nice about that because I was nice about that. I was like, but it's Forbidden Door. I'm miles away. I'm not going to the show. I won't be ttoo negative. I'll let the lads have a great time. Like, I think that was true. I don't think that build was good, and I think it was a sign of what was to come.
Yeah, and this is how it's been ever. What is it? It's the same matches from the last pay-per-view, then combined with a couple of stuff building 2 new sets of champions, of which I'm still not certain what's going on with the women's tag belts. Like that's just all manner of kind of like weirdness going on there. And it's like, and here's a match, and fuck it, it'll be for between $200,000 and $1 million for whoever wins this match. It's just like the weirdest thing in the world. Which if you said to a professional wrestler, you win $1 million if you win this match, my God, you'd want people talking about how it's a life-changing amount of money. It's just numbers that are thrown out there. So they don't have any meaning. It could be for 50 grand and it would still have exactly the same kind of stakes set up in there as well. And it's just all leads to a pay-per-view that feels as, I mean, I'm trying to think of the last time I felt this uninspired, which, dare I say it was the All Out the week after Wembley, the first Wembley, where it was like, oh, this could, and that turned out to be one of the shows of the year. It was better than Wembley by quite a bit, but that was the last time that I really felt this was going to be the case. And it made me think, and it was, I mentioned this to one of our group chats, to Andy Ogden, it was just like, just should have done blood and guts at the pay-per-view. I honestly to God, I looked at it like I felt, I watched it out of duty, but I was almost getting angry while watching it. Angry to the point where my internet was clearly cutting off there as well a second ago.
Oh,
so
sure,
it's like,
it might have been StreamYard in general. Could have been both.
Oh, okay.
No, I agree. It's like, this is the thing with Blood and Guts. Again, it's not as bad as like WWE. We have a pay-per-view coming up called Survivor Series War Games. So there's 2 War Games matches, but like, because clearly they've moved it along the line this year, hence why we're getting 4 War Games matches, 4 Blood and Guts matches, 4 whatever you want to call them this year. Like, clearly AEW had the room to maneuver and put it wherever they want, but they put it 2 weeks before the pay-per-view, and you're absolutely right. Like, this pay-per-view would probably feel more significant, especially with a couple of weeks more build for both of those Blood and Guts matches to take place on a pay-per-view would probably make a lot more sense, because outside, it's not like they needed to save the space for the show. So we'll go through the pay-per-view matches and talk like that happens from Dynamite as we go through them, as you and Garrett did on the weekend show last month. But we could probably copy and paste that audio that you and Garrett did as well going to the pay-per-view, where it's like, this match will probably be good. Build's been a bit underwhelming. Don't really believe Samoa Joe as a challenger, but here we go again. That's pretty much what it is, and I think that some of that is because of having Blood and Guts in the middle. And yeah, I hadn't really thought about it until you said it. Did Blood and Guts, was the 600,000 needed for Blood and Guts? Tony Khan might say yes. Worth it to really sacrifice this pay-per-view build and not give the pay-per-view a little bit more due. I'm sure that's the internal conversation that was had, but I can't disagree with kind of what it's done for this. I guess there's nowhere you can put it when you want to have a pay-per-view TV special like that, unless there's like a 8-week period where there's no pay-per-view. Maybe that's where it could have belonged a little bit better. But yeah, you can't say it's not been disruptive like StreamYard's been disruptive in the last couple of minutes.
Yeah, and it is really disruptive, like StreamYard. And I also think as well, it's seeing people who are potentially could be used in much more interesting positions and aspects on the card, and they're not. And for example, I'll throw this one out there. I'd like to see a Josh Alexander Kenny Omega match. I think I said to you before, like, the reasoning behind that is, I know Kenny has to tone it down somewhat. Josh Alexander isn't a high-flying wrestler. He can do lots of ground-based stuff that would work and would look good. And it doesn't need to go 20-odd minutes. It can go a good solid 12, 13 minutes. And that's a much more interesting use of both of those wrestlers. Instead, they're in $1 million 6-man. And I'm like, what? Really? Like,
the future of the league hangs on it, JP. Will Kenny Omega and the Bucks get back together again? Come on. Story again. Letters.
Yeah, which is happening. Like, and
yeah, again, it's a key bit.
Yeah, the big question is does it actually happen at Full Gear? That's they're the kind of main bits of interest. Is it's like, okay, are we going to get the Moxley kicked out of the Death Riders? And do you have the Elite reforming? Outside of those two things, is Mark Briscoe going to join the Don Callis family? Like, a lot of these things that feel like, they're pretty uninspiring for what they could have done. They could have, if you're going to make this a B-level pay-per-view, like, you can do interesting things and elevate certain people in certain ways and make some of the matchups a bit more interesting. But instead, it's rehashes, a lot of, the national title, which, again, that was brought up on the Helwani, and he was like, oh, this is great. Without, the obvious question from Helwani is like, did you need another title? Did you really need another title? Oh, but it's the national title. It's like, and what does that mean? Like, really, in any reasonable terms, it's just like, there's no good reason for that title.
And that tip off,
or this
that story
this match
should have been the tip off that we've got a Tony Khan in autopilot mode right now. If it is even Tony Khan that's booked it, it feels like he went to the Helwani stuff and like just left somebody in charge of running this week's Dynamite who just booked it in the most Tony Khan way they could possible. Like it's been a lot of autopilot about the TV over the last while. But like I say, we'll talk about the individual builds to the individual matches as we talk about the pay-per-view. I mean, it's not doing a bad house. We've got the numbers here, JP. Obviously, we've got 8,158 tickets distributed, with 8,968 being the possible total there. 810 tickets still available at time recording at the Prudential Centre. You know, bit down on Full Gear last year, which was a bit down on Full Gear the year before, but within the ballpark, mostly healthy. And apparently the cheapest ticket's $40. I'm sure I paid less than that when I got one on the day of the show last year. So we'll see how exactly it does. But yeah, I think anybody going is probably the AEW sickos who are going, like we are, despite everything we'll ever say, JP, expecting there to be good matches from good wrestlers. And that's what we're going to get here, even if we're not getting a particularly great build for this one, JP. But we should talk it as we go through the card. Obviously, that's the ticket update. But obviously, you know, a collision tagged onto the end of a 2-hour Dynamite to make it 3 hours as everyone slowly hit the clicker and turned off this week wasn't enough. As apparently we also have a tailgate brawl taking place on Saturday. So yeah, look forward to the confusion from the Amazon buyers and the people on YouTube as to which pre-show they should be watching. But some interesting, to say the least, matches added to this tailgate brawl on Dynamite this week.
Yeah, only AEW could have effectively 3 pre-shows going on between the countdown show,
the counter program and their own pre-show.
Yeah, which is incredible. Between the countdown, between whatever the panel ends up doing, which is going to be counter programming the stuff going on in the ring, which is the tailgate brawl, makes no sense.
Tony Khan will be live on Twitter at the same time. Is current favorite method of doing any publicity for the shows?
Oh, that's it. Yeah, God forbid you go out and yeah, exactly. You know, rather than walking around Newark trying to like flog a few more tickets. And I think it'll hit 9,000 because I think that just last update on there. Dodgy around there. Yeah, all I've heard is dodgy things about Newark. I know there's the airport there, and it's cheaper to go there than it is to go to.
We've all seen
the LaGuardia. But yeah, sod that. But yeah, the tailgate brawl, these are the matches that are on there. The first one, I know you're buzzing about this, just 200,000.
I know you're buzzing. Just seeing these first 2 names.
Oh, my God. Big Bill and Brian Keith. The first one I'm all right with. The second one, no. I don't know where have they been ever since the Eddie Kingston loss? Just like nowhere.
That's true. That actually Bill did good with that too. We did.
He did great. Like, he really did. It would have been more.
Tony Khan forgot he had that toy.
Yeah, exactly. As they do. And how can you forget you have this toy? He's big enough. It's a big enough toy. It's like having a gigantic teddy bear. I'm
sure. Lost it down the back of the couch or something, you know.
But he's gigantic. If you lost him around the back of the couch, he's there with his head sticking up above it while you're watching telly. Like, you can't miss it.
Sticking out like Gareth and Beck.
Exactly. He's a big old lad. But yeah, we got Big Bill and Brian Keith versus Anthony Bowens and Max Caster versus the Outrunners versus the Bang Bang Gang of Austin Gunn and Juice Robinson, who spoke this week. It was one of the other promos that was on there talking about investing their money in a 401k and all manner of like just saving up your money, which, you know, if you're a smart wrestler, you just think, God, yeah, 200 grand, I'll buy a fucking house with this. Certainly pay off the mortgage. You just like, yeah, hold fire on that for the time being. But that has been announced on there. There is
so just to be clear, Top Flight who seem to get over on Dynamite this week and not in this match. Okay, fair enough.
Nope. Yep, for reasons. I wonder whether or not they will appear in the open challenge though. We've got Eddie Kingston and Hook versus opponents to be announced. Yeah, it would be a bit lame, and it wouldn't quite work. A frat house like it was last time, so God knows what they're doing with these two.
The end of spot on the pay-per-view on Dynamite, it felt like. I mean, I hear Brian Alvarez talk about it. It has been 5 years since Top Flight also felt like the end of spot like in a match on Dynamite this week. But I don't know if I'd have them as the challenges. That's a weird one. I thought when I first saw the news story before I saw Dynamite, I thought it was an Eddie Kingston open challenge for a singles match, which I was a little bit interested in. But yeah, what do you think of it? You got a tag team that could face Kingston and Hook like it. It's in New Jersey, so is there anyone in New Jersey based who it could be? Or it being Eddie Kingston, I have to expect like Akiyama or someone to show up. I don't know who it could be.
From a storyline
Kenta
perspective,
I don't know.
It would make sense to have Katsuyori Shibata and Powerhouse Hobbs, just because, you know, let's not forget these guys who are.
Challenge?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, exactly. There's no good reason for that. And trust me, if you had Eddie Kingston versus Katsuyori Shibata or Eddie Kingston versus Powerhouse Hobbs
in Tokyo Dome.
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, it'd sell it out, wouldn't it? That's the real key to shifting those last 6. Get Katsuyori home. That's the thing that works there. But for me, I'm looking at it thinking that's when I come back to like the more interesting use of some of these wrestlers. You could have Powerhouse Hobbs going over Eddie Kingston, and I think I'd accept it at this stage in the game, and it would at least feel like an interesting mid-card battle, if nothing else, for like trying to get some of the juice back on Powerhouse Hobbs, or deciding we're going to do something with Eddie Kingston as well, and instead there's this. But like, I'm just throwing names out there. I mean, I'm thinking outside of that. Who else is there really?
Great for Eddie to have a blood feud, wouldn't it? Instead, instead of doing open challenges all the time. How about that instead? There we go. Oh, well.
It doesn't have to be.
Let's say, by the way, that Anthony Bowens and Max Caster story still going on with their dad Jerry Lynn. Who wants to see that? That's also taken.
Their new dad.
Oh yeah,
their old dad is dead.
I think he is. I think he's gone back to his home planet, which is the WWE Hall of Fame. I expect to see him come March, I'd say. But this next match, I didn't even know this was on the card. Okay, I'm into it now. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, this is one that they built up. I want to say they built it up even before Wrestle Dream. It feels like they did an angle around this.
I've just forgotten about it.
Yeah, no idea. But we got Roppongi Vice, RPG Vice of Rocky Romero and Trent Beretta versus Boom and Doom of Big Boom AJ and QT Marshall, I'm sure were enemies. And that's not been explained.
No, we showed them respect. You showed them respect last time. I bet that'd be good. I wish I was in Newark for this one. I was in Newark for the last one. It was them two I saw, wasn't it? It was the singles match with Big Boom AJ and QT Marshall. Yeah, I want to see more of that. Yeah, that's right up my street. Needs Jeff involved.
I mean, for a match like this, I'm much less bothered about this. But like, I always think this is the kind of stuff you chuck on TV, even if, and maybe I'm wrong, it does feel like the Big Boom AJ and Big Justice stuff has kind of run its course. They've had the 15 minutes, and
I don't think they're doing the numbers on TikTok like they used to anymore. To be fair,
no. But it at the same time, I kind of get it from like an easy pop, like novelty value perspective. Like it's fine for what it is, and you know who's winning as well at the same time. Although QT Marshall could be there to eat the pin, that wouldn't be entirely like incorrect. But then I think Rocky Romero's there to eat the pin. Let's be honest about that one as well.
3 people here who could eat the pin, and none of them are Big Boom AJ. Maybe that tells you something about AEW's undercard. Oh well, Big Justice,
and he shouldn't be. Yep, exactly. And that Rizzler kid will sit there just doing that fucking chin scratchy thing, which I don't know. It's for me, it's up there with 6-7 as just like pointless things that don't need to really exist in any kind of like real world content.
That to me when I watched that later South Park. I still don't get it. But anywho, what else is on the pre-show?
There's no explanation. Oh yeah, exactly. As well on the pre-show here, we've got this is random CMLL World Trios title match. El Sky team of Mascara Dorada, Mystico, and Neon taking on the Don Callis family of Hechicero, Kazuchika Okada, and Konosuke Takeshita, which seems, I don't know, for the two lads who are, let's face it, in the big two matches at the biggest selling Tokyo Dome in recent years, to be on a pre-show match like is a weird thing.
Slow burn. I'm putting something on the back burner, waiting, obviously, for those developments in New Japan. And then there's this. What are they doing on the pre-show? This has been some of the best stuff. To be fair, like we had a bit of it on Dynamite this week, but we kind of missed like that heavy-duty in-ring segment with the two of them 2 weeks ago was fantastic stuff. Yeah, like that stinks of some combination of this. Should be on the show. Maybe Okada and Takeshi there in a straight-up tag, maybe. Maybe keep Dorada away from it after that performance on Dynamite this week. Looked a bit off, as Danielson said on commentary. But yeah, you could have done something a bit more with that. Though could have been a pay-per-view match, absolutely.
It does, and I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, well, Sky Team are going to hold on to the trios belts. It feels like one of these things where Okada and Takeshita will be rowing. In the meantime, Hechicero will get triple teamed by the other three lads and end up being pinned. But that's fine because he can just go back and rework kind of angles against them in Arena Mexico and Arena Coliseo. And that'll tick all the boxes for that. I mean, as a match like this, weirdly, I wouldn't have minded this one on the main card if it had some build. If this was something that was happening, I'd be like, well, okay, might have done something with it. But, as Andy says here in the chat, he loves belts so much, Tony Khan, that he's importing them for the pay-per-view. There isn't enough belts that are involved in here, but there you go.
For me, it's a surprising amount of build, which makes it all a shock that it's on the pre-show for me. But there we go. I'm sure we'll be talking about it come the review next week. But that takes us into the main show. Obviously, you've got the betting odds here, JP, that you can give us as we go. And yeah, kicking off the order we've got here. And to be fair, actually, take it back. There was a good promo on Dynamite this week. Pac talking up this match with Darby Allin, talking about how he wanted a straight up singles match with him rather than anything crazy, coming off putting him through fire and almost killing him, almost kind of like indicating a degree of regret for doing that, like it was beneath himself, was Pac. But yeah, two perennial AEW mid to upper mid carders, two fantastic performers. I think this will be great back on Darby Allin, and yeah, it would make sense to me to kick off the show with it. I presume Darby goes over, but yeah, probably a given Pac losers here, but I expect the match to be good, and probably going to say that about a lot of the matches on this show.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to think, obviously, there is part of that, and I think this will be really good. I'd actually have a bit of confidence in that as well, and it should be like bit balls to the wall. It's a funny one with Pac because there's a part of me thinks, is he the guy who's going to end up becoming the kind of next de facto leader of the Death Riders? Or is it going to be, I think we spoke about it on last Friday, is it going to be Marina Shafir? Is it going to be...
I think more likely that.
Yeah. That feels... But it's like, where does he fit into all of this? Or is he going to go on another one of his excursions back home to Newcastle and we don't see him for a little while? So you go with Darby Allin. That's the guy they're going with. We don't have... the Northeast. Oh, exactly. Sounds harsh. I like Newcastle.
Rather go to New Japan, I think, if you're going on an excursion. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But all Rev Pro. But at the same time, you can't help but think Darby Allin's winning this one. I mean, like I say, it's as much off the build from Blood and Guts as much as anything else. And this feels like a good, solid mid-card match with whoever wins is going to be elevated to be talked around some kind of title contention as well. And it feels like for Darby Allin, it's part of that process of getting him into that sort of like world title picture at some stage. So Darby Allin surely's got a win. I haven't got betting odds for this one because this one was announced relatively late in the day. Neither Paddy Power nor Sky Bet have got any odds for this particular match.
We'll go from there. We have the second Richie Rich match of the night, not for $200,000, $1 million, JP. That tells you where we are in things. We have $1 million 6-man tag matches. As you mentioned earlier, Josh Alexander and the Young Bucks versus Jurassic Express, Jack Perry, and Luchasaurus and Kenny Omega. Talked enough on recent weeks about this would not be our Kenny Omega or what we'd be doing with him, even if you had to put him in a tag. And again, Elite Lore is definitely not for me and you, and feels like what this is building to. I understand that. I just don't understand what's next. What do we get then? Is it literally just so Kenny can do more trios matches and we get the Bucks and Kenny together as a trio? I mean, we've seen it. The matches were good, but it wasn't that enthralling from a television point of view as far as investing in the characters and investing in the people and investing in Kenny Omega and getting the most out of Kenny Omega. But maybe it's all Kenny can do at this point. But feels, unless there's a big swerve coming, exactly how this is going to end, and presumably Babyface is over in this one.
Yeah, Babyface are massive favourites here. So they're 6-1 on Kenny Omega and Jurassic Express. Young Bucks and Josh Alexander 7-2. That's on both betting sites for this. So, I mean, if you're going to ask me how it ends, it ends with the faces winning. Big heel beatdown from the Don Callis family. Bucks look like they're going to walk down the aisle. They stand there looking conflicted with their backs to the ring, look at each other, run back in, start delivering super kicks. Big hug in the middle of the ring as well. And you get like a super elite of which Jurassic Express are also in there as well at the same time. So, yeah. And crowd there will probably end up
Remain on
lapping it up. Well, this is the thing. Are you not going to end up thinking as soon as this happens, it's like, okay, when's the point they're going to break up again? Like, you know, that's what we'll be playing the next countdown to for it.
Build
Whereas
the next Wembley around it, mate. Get Kota Ibushi involved.
oh, but there were things that I mean, this is me fantasy booking as well. I was there kind of hopeful at one point they'd do Omega and Hangman versus the Bucks again. And then that would be in essence leading to like Kenny and Hangman having a match. And that would have felt like interesting. You'd have had the Bucks get their win
good
back.
Law to lean into, yeah. That'd be money draw.
That would have been
into.
Yeah, that would have been a lot more interesting than this. Or like I said earlier on, like Omega and Josh Alexander as a match in here, and do something else with the Bucks in there. Not necessarily a rematch against Jurassic Express. That would have been excessive to go to a rematch for that on a card full of other rematches there. But yeah, it's hard. It's just that I look at this and it feels like one of these matches that you're going to end up watching, and it's just like, there's a lot of it going to feel like we're killing time until we get the face turn from the Bucks at the end of it all. Like, and that's what I hate when it feels like this is the direction they're going in and this is what they're going to end up doing, because they're not going to have them joining the Don Callis family. It's like, that's it, you know, and I get the idea you probably don't want to deliver on that anyway, but it all feels like this is quite lazy booking for this. So yeah, it's not a match I'm really remotely enthused by, even if there'll be lots of fun stuff that'll happen in the match. And I'm sure I'll say, yeah, these were good spots, but I can't find myself getting excited by it.
Well, there we go. That's that one. Up next, Four Corners tag team match. Marina Shafir and Megan Bayne. Not a team you would have ever expected, but had a little bit of, I'd say, charisma and a little bit of chemistry. Sisters of Sin, Julia Hart and Sky Blue. Timeless Love Bombs is their real name. Mina Shirakawa and Tony Storm. And the Babes of Wrath in a four-corner tag team match. That's a pick 'em, JP. I don't think we'll go long on the analysis of this one. I don't know. Tony and Mina win.
Probably, yeah. I mean, although because the winners of this get to pick the stipulation for the semi-final match. That's right.
I think that's the gimmick. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Which
is like, why couldn't they just have the semi-finals for this on this show? I don't know. Maybe it's just me. That would have been perhaps a better use of time, maybe, to do something like that. I don't think they will go with the Timeless Love Bombs. Particularly, I mean, that's partly me thinking they're going to win the titles anyway. I think they're going to go with Marina Shafir and Megan Bayne, just to try and build them up as like feeling like they're the most obvious threats. So that feels like the direction that, for me, that they're going to go in. And then it'll be a case of like, you know, the Timeless Love Bombs coming from like kind of underneath in classic babyface style. So again, no odds for this one on this, because this was a match that was thrown together on Dynamite. So the bookies haven't been on it. They clearly haven't watched Dynamite and Collision, and who can blame them? And so I'm going to go with prison. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it feels like a suspect bet, if nothing else. So, yeah, so Marina Shafir and Megan Bayne for me. That's who I think is going to win this one.
Next up, we have the AEW National, not International, as Ricochet did point out. And again, it's weirdly long promo on Dynamite this week. Casino Gauntlet match, which obviously we had a few matches, a couple of which went better than the others on Dynamite this week to build. But what we know so far, Shelton Benjamin, obviously in the match, Bobby Lashley, Ricochet, Speedball Mike Bailey, and Kevin Knight. Good Lord, that Mike Bailey and Shelton Benjamin finish was ugly to watch. I don't know why. Oh. There was two problems with that. Why didn't the referee just carry on counting? And also, at the point that he didn't count, why didn't Bailey just roll his shoulder up a little bit, mate, and make it look like maybe there's a bit of doubt that he got up? Rough that. Although I thought Shelton did well killing him afterwards. To be fair, I probably wouldn't have put Shelton over in the first place, but they got there in the end, and obviously, yeah, Bob Lash fucking smashing through Ricochet and Dynamite this week definitely showed you where
under 3
Shelton
minutes
and Bobby are in the political landscape still right now in AEW. I did expect that to be a little bit more 50-50, but there we go. Maybe that's not necessarily a bad thing, but they have to be the favourites from a kayfabe point of view. But I feel like from a shoot point of view, Ricochet's match to lose, maybe. I think this belt might have been created for him. That's my feel based on the way Dynamite was laid out.
That's how it feels. It feels like Ricochet's winning this. Like it just feels, yeah, he's stealing it at the end, and it's almost like we had those two matches, so we've got a reason to have Shelton Benjamin and Bobby Lashley have their moment in the ring at the beginning of this, where people can sing the Hurt Syndicate song while they're beating each other up. Yeah, not as in like, you know, rather like when Demolition came in 1 and 2 in that Royal Rumble that time. It just like it ticks that box. It was the 92 Rumble as well, isn't it? They came out 1 and 2, wasn't it?
Did it with them too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just like an easy kind of thing to go. I mean, this is where we're going to be getting most of the mid card on here, aren't we? With this, I mean, like as soon as you get,
this is
like,
why there isn't a blood and guts match, isn't there? Because Tony wants to do one of these.
But when was the last time we had one of these? Was it All In?
It
was, wasn't it?
2.5 months ago.
Like, and then we had one earlier on at the start of the year as well. So it'd be the third one of these we've had this year. For fuck's sakes. Like, I mean, like, I don't know, he didn't want to do a tournament, so he does a gauntlet match for a title that doesn't need to exist. Again, no odds on this at all. But if I was having a bet for it, if it does come up, I'd be going Ricochet. It just feels he steals it. It gives him, he's a chicken shit heel anyway. And that's probably the way to go in order to try and get some heat on this title. And he's got his heaters there stood behind him. It will kind of easily adds up. But it feels like it'll be a very low rent gauntlet because it's not like they're going to be able to get in people from New Japan because Tag League's going on, and that takes up
like
most.
When we do them on Dynamite, as much as we don't like it because you'd rather it was built up, Ospreay might turn up. You know, Wade might have turned up. You know, back when they were both healthy. Level, maybe MJF turns up. Maybe that's the best level star you could hope for to come back in this thing. But yeah, you're probably right. I think the ceiling is quite low. That takes us into the next match: AWTNT title, Kyle Fletcher versus Mark Briscoe. Again, like, I'll watch the match. I'll enjoy the match like I did last time. I'm not sure I needed to see it again, and I'm not sure I need to see the upcoming TV, which is presumably going to be Mark Briscoe on the Briscoe family farm doing stuff with Kyle Fletcher and Don Callis and whatever else we get coming out of it. But I think that means Kyle Fletcher goes over, but tell me if the odds are saying any different.
Well, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Yeah, from an odds perspective, Kyle Fletcher, it's pretty close. And I can see why it would be close. Because I think if there was a time you were going to have Briscoe having that big win, it would be now. Kyle Fletcher's still favourite, 7-4. But I think Mark Briscoe at 6-5 isn't necessarily a bad bet. Because I think it might just be a bit of a swerve in terms of having
Kyle on, I guess.
Yeah, they can move him on as well. I mean, you can see it either way. You can see these skits with the Mark Briscoe bringing the Don Callis family to the rather like they did with the Jarrett lot. That time.
And again, every time we talk about it, I talk myself back into it. Like, no, that sounds good actually. Throw a big boom AJ in. I love it.
I heard it. What was it on? It would have been on Flagship where they were talking about this, and they were saying you can see the bit where each of the Don Callis family are like babysitting one of his kids, stuff like that. Those kind of storylines, and they're wearing dungarees there. Yeah, and there'll be like some picture that he draws up of the Don Callis family, and it involves each and every one of his kids in there as well. And it'll be like,
Don Callis.
Yeah, all of that stuff in there. Like you can do that, and it might make for in the moment entertaining TV. Part of the problem here is it's the 6th match, I think, between them, wasn't it? It was the 5th match they were advertising for Wrestle Dream.
So we found that out,
yeah. We include there was the series before the Continental Classic. There was the match in the Continental. They're the ones that sort of stand out to me necessarily before this. Yeah. And I think you can get away with taking the belt of Kyle Fletcher here. So I'm gonna go for a Mark Briscoe win, just in terms of giving like that kind of like that big moment, and it feels like it would work here. And maybe it might be because they're staples of the Northeast and whatnot that they're going to get that kind of big. He's going to get that big reaction. But yeah, there's a part of me just thinks, yeah, they could take Kyle Fletcher out of this if whatever happens with Okada and Takeshita. If Takeshita wins the unified title, Kyle Fletcher is a good first opponent to kind of throw into the mix at the point after that as well. Yeah. And that moves him ever so much up the card. Mark Briscoe having that title there. And I suppose it depends if Ricochet's winning the gauntlet. If you think about it, you want that sort of you've got these 4 major men's titles. Fucking ridiculous statement to make. But Hangman would be the only baby face if Kyle Fletcher was holding on to this thing. Yeah, of course. Yeah, well, we don't count that though, do we?
Battles come on. Steeped in
so yeah, I don't know what you think about this. I'm going to go with Mark Briscoe.
Yeah, I think Kyle Fletcher, but I could see that happening too. I could see it coming out of it, but giving it more time than it deserves. Let's move on to the AEW World Tag Team Title match: Bro Dido versus FTR. And you knew it was Collision this week, and you didn't need the graphics to change, you didn't need the ring skirt to change because FTR appeared on TV. Therefore, you knew it was Collision. I think they've done a decent job of building this. I think they've had some of the more memorable segments on Dynamite the last while. Even some of the ha-ha ones have been they've gotten me. Even the Stokely stuff has gotten me, and obviously the stuff with Bandidos more and all of that. Like, they on the quiet, they've actually built this, and I think FTR have done good work. I think they've had a quietly good year, a year where they put a lot of people over, but a year where I think they've gotten themselves over, at least in this incarnation of them over, that have obviously always been over in AEW. But yeah, I presume Bro Dido go over, but yeah, maybe sitting thinking about it. I think there's a chance of FTR, and there's a chance of shenanigans involving Stokely, and obviously they've been pretty much one of those teams, aren't they, Brody? Though as soon as you put them together, we're all fantasy booking, splitting them up and pairing them off, and having singles matches between the two. And again, like we keep saying, so far it's not happened, but maybe this could be the moment. I don't know. I think I'd lean Brody though. What say you?
Well, funny enough, the bookies completely disagree with you. FTR are red hot favourites here. They're 5-1 on. Bro Dido 3-1. I have to say I agree with them. I think they're putting the belts on FTR. I think this is where it feels like it's a natural finishing point for Bro Dido, if only because the Continental Classic starts afterwards. And I think that's you can separate them and kind of have them go in sort of singles directions. And we've spoken about how both of them deserve to kind of have that singles push. I don't know if a win over FTR it's almost like they've gotten as big as they're going to be. But also, and this Chris mentions it in the chat there, I was thinking, surely Adam Copeland's finished filming Beekeeper 2 with Jason Statham.
Tony couldn't be
front row at the boxing. Yeah, he was front row at the boxing at White Hart Lane on Saturday with the Conor Benn Chris Eubank Jr. fight, which was shit. But yeah, I think FTR, because I think it's going to build to that match that'll happen afterwards with Cage and Cope. So I think I'm going to go with FTR.
There we go. Well, on from there, last couple of matches, we have AEW World Title match in the Women's World Title, which Excalibur does try to make clear these days. Chris Statlander versus Mercedes Moné. Felt like they got a bit of a short straw having the go home segment be the end of a collision, where I'm pretty sure the rating will be just sloping downwards as we get to that segment on Dynamite this week. Again, Statlander as champion. I think they didn't convince me when they put the belts on her. They've not convinced me with the booking since, and it's not really her fault, but she doesn't feel like the AEW Women's World Title champion right now. And I think, tell me if the bookies odds are going the other way, this is just an excuse to get the belt to Mercedes, unless this inexplicable continued quote unquote push, or at least a push in Tony Khan's mind, put a belt on her. Never mind doing the legwork that would get her to this position in the air and the lead to it. But unless it's one of those, I feel like Mercedes goes over.
She is favourite. Not by a lot. It's one of these close run things. She is 6-4 on. Chris Statlander is 11-10. But I'm with you. Like, I feel like this is as good a moment to put this belt on her. God knows why. She's won another 2 titles since. With between like the sort of Tony undisputed Ring of Honor.
It's like the Callis family. You've just got to give up at some point. They just think it's funny that there's loads of members, and it never mind what it does to your booking, or what it does to the guys who aren't Okada and Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher. But yeah, they find it funny that she has all these belts. So let's just keep the joke going. Like, that feels like all that is to me.
And it's not funny, is it? It's just like the joke has well and truly gone. It's completely gone on this. I think Mercedes Moné's winning this. Like, I really do. And in some ways, you want her to win it, to have a long run with it in the build up to Tony getting it back. Well, it depends when there's Australia shows. They're February, so that would make sense in terms of trying to kind of get the build maybe to those, and have Tony win it in one of the 2 Australia shows they're doing, Brisbane and Sydney. This Statlander run, I've not felt it since the beginning. It was like a weird thing when she won it, but I was like, okay, I'll give it a. Yeah, it does feel it feels like it's a case of it's your
booking of her.
It just feels it's been done because it feels like it's them saying, well, it's your time now, and it's like, but why?
Your turn.
What is the reasoning behind that? But I mean, Willow being in this position, good shout that. I'd say, I've got to say, I think it'd be Mercedes Moné. I can't keeping the belt on Statlander, and then what? What you're gonna finally
gets her over in it at a world title level? Not that she's not over, but like to that degree, I don't know. Platt saying, the story should be she can't win the big one, has to lose the others and find herself before she does. Yeah, you could tell that story as well. We can go in there back and start winning this, but I see Mercedes going over, and that takes us to the main event, which, again, is there any... Tell me the odds on this one, JV. Hangman Adam Page versus Samoa Joe. Unless we're doing a DQ or a count-out or something like that, I'm pretty sure. And I guess you can't with it being the steel cage, unless there's some kind of shenanigans. Maybe, like we saw it on the Mankind show in 1999, maybe No More BS, Paul White comes and pulls the side of the cage off like he did with Steve Austin at St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Maybe we have some kind of creativity outside that. Hangman Adam Page beats Samoa Joe, and that's it. Like, and it's just, it'll be marginally better because Cage. But really, I'd like to, as much as I'm a Samoa Joe guy and I defended him to the hilt on that Samoan show, I don't think this ain't the second go round on a pay-per-view cycle, and I haven't changed my mind. And if you disagree with me and you're a fellow Samoa Joe sicko, call me in 2 months when Samoa Joe's back in the trios division and hasn't had a singles match since he loses this one, because that's very much the pattern of Joe's booking in AEW.
Yeah. I mean, the bookies would be in complete agreement with you. 9-1 on. He's the biggest of all the favourites, is Hangman Page. Samoa Joe 4-1. And, like, they can't do the escape the cage stuff, really. I mean, it'll be probably a case the ops try and get involved.
I could see a creative way to do that. Maybe. I could see Hangman as a babyface kind of valiantly climbing out. I could see it being the finish. You could get there creatively.
But they don't do that, do they? They keep on saying they don't do the escape the cage rules. It's either like pin or submission. Like, that's always been their thing with their cage matches, that's what they go for. They don't do the escape the cage bit. Although in some ways I'm less bothered about that kind of a rule per se. I mean, they'll do some stuff for this. I mean, said this before when they did the Powerhouse Hobbs match. I would prefer Powerhouse Hobbs to be in this position just for the sake of something.
If he did the work.
Yeah, did the work, it'd be a bit more interesting to kind of get to that point as well. But this is that part of me feels Hangman wins, and within 2 months, Samoa Joe and the Ops are baby faces again. And it just feels like they were turned heel as just an element of convenience, but they didn't really stick with it. That wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. But yeah, it's just a step too far doing this 2 months in a row. Like, for that one-off time, injury crisis, we need to plug a gap. Samoa Joe can do it, and there's the credibility there. That was absolutely fine. 2 months is just excessive. And it doesn't matter what good work Samoa Joe does for it. I'm just still not going to be feeling
the best possible you can in the situation. I would never hold that against him. Like, he's doing his best in his promos, his whole demeanor to be that world title challenger guy, and he can carry it. But I think he's been leaned on too much when the booking probably could have got us somewhere more interesting than this.
And also, he's going to piss off again reasonably soon to film Series 3 of Twisted Metal. Yeah. Which is, I watched the first series of that, and even though it's not his voice, he's doing all the physical acting. He's the main antagonist in the show. So, like, it's one of the highest rated things on Peacock. He's all. It's hard to say he's all right because he's not actually talking or acting. It's exactly. Yeah, should get himself an AMC. Yeah, but yeah, it's like a lot of this show. It's hard to feel.
It'll be good though, won't it? Despite everything we said,
it will be. But is there?
Be bad.
It won't be. No, it won't be bad. No, you're right on that. It won't be bad. It might be over long. That's the bigger problem. If it was slightly condensed, I'd have faith in the tag match being the match of the night because Bro Dido have delivered, and you'd be confident in FTR stepping up to it as well. Pac Darby Allin, I'd have faith in that being really good. Again, the same thing with Fletcher and Mark Briscoe, but I might not be into it as much. Like, I did enjoy the match on the last show, even if I did feel like, okay, I don't really want to see these two like doing it again. And even the cage match might be fun just because of the Stip being able to do the bells and whistles around Joe, and if he doesn't go too long.
I think that'll over-deliver.
Yeah, it's an AEW pay-per-view, so they won't just do it as like 15 minutes because he'll feel like he's shortchanging fans in that weird logic he has. And it's just like, no, mate, you'll be fine with that. So
hey, those fans exist. They're on Twitter. They'll tell you about it.
But yeah, you write off AEW pay-per-views at your peril. Like you really do. There's a reason why 100,000 people lay down their money for these shows, regardless of what the TV ratings are doing. And it does feel to me like you'll get the same number doing it again. I think it's just like what are going to... Oh, and there's also another match that's been announced for this that I haven't added on to, that was added on last night. Is Kyle O'Reilly versus John Moxley not on this?
Of course,
show?
Yeah.
And that's going to be probably your big storyline match, possibly, even though you'd have to say John Moxley should be winning that. No?
I don't know. I mean, again, there's an interesting story to be told there with John Moxley and him potentially losing another big singles match, potentially tapping out again. I just wish that story, which has been well told and well plotted and delivered well as a moment in Blood and Guts, was with somebody with a bit more upside than 2025 Kyle O'Reilly at this point. But yeah, I could see Moxley pulling a rabbit out of hat and getting some magic out of that and it being a big moment, but it's still Kyle O'Reilly at the end of the day, isn't it? As we said last week.
Yeah, exactly. And I suppose in some ways he can beat him and it would make for a better switcheroo. He wins it. He thinks, oh no, I've got my credibility back with the rest of the Death Riders. And then Wheeler Yuta pulls out a Plazzy bag, or Marina Shafir does. And
it was only Kyle O'Reilly. Come on, mate. You're not impressing us with that. At least make it really strong. Jesus.
Yeah. Or Tomohiro Ishii. Like, you know, that's the thing. I think for this, I could
see them doing that well. And again, that's an interesting story that's still not been delivered on. Obviously, Blood and Guts was where a lot of people were expecting that to happen. Yeah, they could pull the trigger there, and that could be another thing we come out of the show talking about there as well. So there you go. Yeah, worth noting as well, JP. Yeah, I presume Moxley goes over, but I think there's a chance they do that story with Kyle instead. But yeah, if there's nothing else that's been added last minute, that's the show. But quickly, JP, not the only show going on this weekend. We have had a slew of other previews to mention, as we do in the traditional weekend show style sense. We won't go full Excalibur for this, JP, but there is a lot going on this weekend, not just AEW.
There is indeed. We've got SmackDown, of which we've got two more matches for the last time is now tournament. Bronson Reed versus Carmelo Hayes and Finn Balor versus Penta have been announced in first round matches there, as well as DIY versus Fraxium has also been announced for SmackDown as well. Following that, though, there's a big show that's on tonight. We have MLW and Don Gato Tequila, which, if you're not aware of, that's Danny McBride's tequila company that he set up, hoping to make rock-style millions off that. And this is from Charleston, South Carolina, from the Charleston Music Hall, which is the new home base for MLW, as reported by Court Bauer out today, sending it all in all the press releases and doing the odd interview in there as well. What's on there? We've got Scarlett Bordeaux versus Isla Dawn. Templario defending the world middleweight title against Guerrero Maya Jr. There's a pit fighter match, Jesus Christ, between Killer Cross and Matt Riddle. Yep. Shotzi Blackheart versus Priscilla Kelly. Mystico versus Volador Jr. for the Opera Cup 2025. Mystico doesn't lose, so therefore he will win this. For the MLW World Tag Team titles, I'd love to know the star rating on this one. The Skyscrapers of Bishop Dyer and Donovan Dijak versus the Good Brothers. Wow. Yeah. If you're lucky, one. The Don Gato Gauntlet tag match with Atlantis and Atlantis Jr. versus Felino and Negro Casas versus Divinos Laguineros of Blue Panther and Blue Panther Jr. and Galleon Phantasma of Barboza and Defunto. And then in the main event, and what a main event this is, World Heavyweight title bunkhouse match, Mads Cruel Kruger versus Brock Anderson. Not CW even, Brock Anderson, who apparently has got Arn Anderson in his corner for this one, which will be, I mean, if we get Arn Anderson doing a spine buster on Mads Cruel Kruger, then fair play. It will have been worth it for that. But yeah, Yeah, this is all on YouTube, by the way, so it won't cost you a penny. So you can watch it the next day or skip through it liberally to the end bits where the angles happen, because you don't need to worry about anything in terms of match quality with MLW. So that's what's going on there.
We're getting the signs that the WWE money is running out for quarters. Yeah, where's he setting up shop now? Bumfuck, Florida, or whatever they're moving to.
Charleston, mate. He's at home.
Oh, it's here. Right.
It's the home venue for them now. Is where he is in there. Lad and Dad to go quite. Oh God, yeah. The old music hall can't keep me out. You don't
need Dad and Lad. I can't see them to have another haircut in about 30 years, but yeah, could have done with it.
Haven't got any hair to cut, mate, have they? Those two fellas.
CW when you need him. Does he still not work there? Oh, well.
He still does. Yeah, where is he? Old Uncle CW, but yeah, he's not on. He's not on the card. He'll turn on that gauntlet match that's on there as well. We've got day 2 of World Tag League, which started today. I mean, there's no point even going through the result. Does it mean anything necessarily at this stage? But this is the one that's on this weekend from the. My God, it's worth a lot in Scrabble. Chichibunomiya Memorial Gymnasium in Fujisawa, Kanagawa, Japan, a place you went to as well, you and Steph. Loved it, loved every second of it. It was the greatest venue in the world. So we've got
great sights.
all Block B matches. Monster Source, Alex Zane and Lance Archer versus House of Torture, Ren Narita and Sonada. United Empire, Callum Newman and Great O'Khan versus TMDK of Rohei Oiwa and Zack Sabre Jr., ELP and Tanahashi versus Shota Umino and Yuya Yamura, and David Finlay and Hiromu Takahashi versus the Knockout Brothers of Oscar and Yuto Ice.
Just triple check. You said Knockout Brothers, right? Not Cockout Brothers. Like the New Japan.
Not the Cockout Brothers as well. That would be a gimmick change for that. That's the kind of thing you do in XPW. Yeah, that's
or whoever's running the Twitter account. It might not be him.
Oh, impressive in there as well. Yeah, I don't think that would fly over there with TV Asahi. There is I'd say a reasonably big Noah show this weekend at Crossover 2025 from the Sendai Sun Plaza Hall, Miyagi. GHC Tag Team Championship match. Hank and Tank, they're back versus Masakita Miya.
I didn't know they had second names. Hank Walker and Tank Ledger. All right, okay.
Yeah,
both got surnames.
I thought yeah, they do apparently. Just they'll always be Hank and Tank to me, or Hank and Wank probably is when given how bad the first match was. So yeah, it's just a rematch of the match where they won the tag belts. Noah Junior Grand Prix final where the winner of Hiromu Takahashi and Tadasuke versus the winner of Hayata and Kai Fujimura. And then for the GHC Heavyweight Championship, Yoshiki Inamura, the new champion, who defeated Kenta, up against Kaito Kiyomiya in his first title defense. So, yeah, that's pretty much all.
Match, yeah, enjoyed that.
Yeah. Stardom have got a tournament going on over it as well. I think All Japan have got their tag league going on in there as well. It is not the tag league of your father's childhood. Yeah, it is all very tag league.
He's kind of been with the Pick'ems, lazy, unbelievable.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
shocking stuff. And I like to cock out and wank. that was Simon who wrote that. It wasn't just me. Yeah, just chucking it in there. Naked Midian joining them, as Chris says there. It's very weird on these, and I'll probably end up having to include these, the AAA Alianzas TV shows, because it's just so WWE heavy that you kind of have to pay attention. From the Gimnasio Olímpico Juan de la Barrera in Mexico City. It's going to be live on Space, not in space. I'm being broadcast to aliens. I don't know what they'd make of this. Probably just invade us and kill us all on the basis of how good the match is. Yeah, it's just like a TV network. They just call it Space. Yeah, I don't get it either. You've got AAA Mixed Tag Team Championship, Chelsea Green and Ethan Page versus Lola Vice and Mr. Iguana. No. Natalia and Fabi Apache versus Flamer and La Hiedra. No. Octagon Jr. versus Axiom versus Jevon Evans. Meh. And then Dragon Lee and El Hijo del Vikingo versus Dominic Mysterio and the man who settled in far too easily into life south of the border, El Grande Americano. Yeah, loving it there, isn't he? And then finally, we've got Red Pro.
Is that the one he's appearing at? Oh, no, that's in December, isn't it?
That's in December, yeah. And the week afterwards, I want to say it's Dominic Mysterio versus El Grande Americano. So I'll talk about it for next week's one, but I think they're doing that like next Saturday. So they're like doing they're sending people there, not people who are doing anything with them. Exactly. Yeah, absolute best in this, including Mr. Iguana. Then we got Rev Pro live in Coventry from a European perspective, from the HMV Empire, very much your old stomping grounds. We have, I think it's for the Rev Pro Tag Team Championship.
It's more your stomping grounds, I'd say, JP. You've had more footprint in Coventry than me.
Well, it should be. I'll tell Tommy. I would tell Tommy to go along to this, but he'll be here next Sunday. He's coming back down, and we're going to watch the North London Derby together on Sunday. Oh, nice. So yeah, that's going to be going on. It's Young Guns versus Rising Tide. I'm not even quite sure who that is. I think it involves Leon Cage is one of them. That's for, I think it's for the Tag Team Championship. Like I say, it just says Tag Team Showdown on the Twitter feed. One Call Manders versus Leighton Buzzard. Leo Rush versus Nino Bryant for the undisputed British Cruiserweight Championship. Leon Slater versus Robbie X. That could be interesting. TNA versus New Japan. Shigehiro Irie, remember him? He's up in there against Jay Joshua. And then JJ Gale and David Francisco, which feels like a strange place to blow off a feud that's very, very much Southampton-based. Sons of Southampton explode and all of that stuff. Coventry. But yeah, that's in Coventry for reasons. So yeah, this is that's very much all your previews for this week.
Joe and Sam Lemon are the real sons of Southampton. They're the only ones I recognise.
Yes.
But there we go. That's taking place. If anyone's in the area, definitely head down there. And that pretty much takes us to the end of the show, JP, unless we've got anything else to say. I've got it included here as our I'm Finally story this week. You did reference it as well. Having watched the Raven documentary. I don't know. I plan on seeing it at some point. Like I said earlier, it's not it wasn't available on Hooky until I saw your little possible Google Drive link that might be up there. Platt said there's one out there as well. I don't know if you want to go through it now. Give us some thoughts on it. Lying Lies and the Lies They Tell. Is that the other title of this one?
It's I mean, I'm happy to hold off on it if you want to wait till you've seen it, because I'll be interested to know your thoughts on
this. Give us some thoughts, because it might be a couple of weeks before, obviously, the review and all as well.
I wish it was full of all Scott Levy-based lies. There's not a mention of Mensa in there at all. You'll be disappointed to hear. None whatsoever. Instead, what there is
how much are you selling for, by the way? What is the price of all I've heard is people say it's expensive. And I've just parroted that, but I actually haven't seen the number.
Oh, £3 to rent, I want to say, for 48 hours. Could be wrong. That's normally how it works on Amazon. Or you could buy it for $10.99. So 11 quid.
Not too bad.
I think the problem is with this, don't get me wrong, it's kind of well made, but it isn't, a lot of the time it's not about Raven. It's about Raven's run in ECW and all the other stuff around it, which we've seen, and it's been done absolutely to death. So you watch this and you're like, oh, what the fuck? Like, yeah, a lot of people, everyone else calling him a genius, and they go through all these angles and stuff that you've already seen and you already know about it, and you've already heard people talk about this. It's very much more close to like Forever Hardcore than anything else. It's very weird. There is some stuff about Scott Levy and his upbringing and how he ends up in WWF and how he ends up as a producer there and how he ends up resigning and then going to ECW and doing the Raven thing, which he wasn't even into grunge. He just sort of, they saw an opportunity. He's like, oh, you want to dress like this? So he did. And then he gave the costume like 3 minutes of thought. And then he was like, yeah, concert t-shirt, ripped jean shorts and DM style wrestling boots. And then that was it. But it's never boring. It's just not all about him. It's just a lot of the times it's like, oh yeah, they took a lot of drugs in ECW. It's like, yeah, we knew this. Oh yeah, they did a lot of extreme like kind of angles. Yeah, we knew this. And they're like, some of these lads, they're not looking the best these days. Yet we knew this, and we read the obituaries of some of them as well. Doesn't tell you anything you need to know. And it isn't about him. It's not like the Sabu documentary, which is very bleak, but it's all about Sabu. And you know where you stand with that. And it's all the build up to that last match. But the bit where they're filming Sabu in a hotel room and he's just like out of it, it's kind of uncomfortable. Yeah. It's like you don't really want to see it. While it makes for an interesting documentary from that perspective, it's not really like fun viewing. This is a lot lighter, and he's got a massive house, by the way. He's done all right. The WCW money paid for that, but WCW is covered in like 10 minutes near the end. It's as much about his run in ECW, and you've already seen it. So I don't like, even though from a production perspective, it's filmed quite well. You know, there's like interesting bits in it. Some of the talking heads are.
He came across great on the aerial interview. I quite enjoyed that with his UFC knowledge.
He comes across all right. He comes across as a bit more self-deprecating. So he's like he's willing to kind of poke holes at the stupid things that he does. But it's this idea of like he's at the end, but like the TNA run is like covered in 3 minutes, and he's like, I got a good send-off from them, and then that's kind of it. But you're not like, it's not like you're following around Raven on a day-to-day basis outside of the very beginning where he ends up at a convention, and it's fine for what it is. If you're going to pay £11 for it, you need to be like proper, like hardcore, like Raven fan. Otherwise, I wouldn't worry about it. If you don't see this, what you already know about Raven, for most of us, you'll already know. You're not really learning a whole lot unless it's about those early years of Scott Levy, and the bits where he's in Portland for a bit, and some of the stuff around Scotty Flamingo and Johnny Polo, which are kind of interesting. But again, they don't go into enough depth for those things for it to feel like it's like a real worthwhile watch. And by the end of it, you're like, okay, yeah, a lot of it feels very, very padded out, like Chris says.
Maybe I won't rush to get it in. Maybe we'll combine it, JP. Maybe to give it a bit of juice, we could do it with like a Raven mixtape or something. Raven deep cut. Raven in WCW deep cut. Maybe we could do. Maybe we'll have to wait for Carl's next King of the Mountain pick up there. Feels like treading on his toes a little bit, but that's a bit disappointing. Not considering the build behind it as well. But there we go. For me, not much else I've watched this week. Just saw breaking news. Apparently, I don't know if you referenced it before, it is official now. The Continental Classic is beginning next week on Dynamite. So we've got that to look forward to. There you go. And never mind the pay-per-view this weekend. We're gonna get the C3 or whatever we're calling it this year coming up as well. But no, that's pretty much it for me. I did have circled down that we might talk a bit more about the Observer Hall of Fame. But to be honest, I think we covered it really on Weekend Show, didn't we, on Thursday? I don't think I've got... Friday. I don't think I've got any more takes than I had then. Kind of shrugged my shoulders at Cody and Punk going in. My overall take was just feels like the voter base and the journalists that Meltzer's going to and the wrestlers feel a little bit younger, and there might be more of a shot for those types of more modern candidates. And WWE, recency bias is going to mean more than ever. I was glad to see Sabu go in, as we talked about. Like obviously part of that's his death, but I think he always belonged there regardless. And yeah, my other take, like I said, the Weekend Show is it just feels like it might continue to get harder for the older candidates to get, and obviously seeing that with Hayabusa this year. I don't know if you had any follow-up takes.
No, not really. I think you've hit the nail on the head. It feels like you've got this. Like,
if Roman's in, Cody should be in. And Matty won't like hearing that, but it's true. And Punk, I would have argued, but I wouldn't have gone full-throated about it over the last few years. I'm not sure if this WWE run has added to it. He says he's doing the best work of his career, while at the same time doing interviews where he talks about how nobody... What did he say this week? Nobody's motivated because everyone earns the same money, so there's not that indication to want to be the top guy anymore or go on last anymore, so... Yeah, that kind of explains CM Punk's run over the last couple of years. I'm not sure he added to his case. I think his case was as good as it was 2 years ago. But again, says something that the journalists and the wrestlers and the historians who are voting very much take this last WWE run as enough to put him over the edge. Maybe that could happen for Edge.
I mean, maybe it's just because we're getting to the point we're thinning out the numbers. So like we're getting to that point
where you've got to start considering other people.
Cody, them being in there at some stage, I wouldn't have an issue in the slightest. It's just this comes back to the old thing. I don't ever feel comfortable about, unless there's such a strong case for a wrestler going in while they're active. But as I said on the weekend show,
like football players, isn't it? I don't like people going in a Hall of Fame while they're younger than me. It's like, come on, mate. Like at least I know we can't possibly get older than me, so I guess you could never go into the Hall of Fame. But maybe there'll be a cut-off point, 45, 50, something like that, where I'll stop feeling like that. But I don't know, a man in his 30s in a Hall of Fame feels wrong.
That's it, particularly when you're waiting for I think the big defining thing for Cody Rhodes for me.
Like literally in the prime right now. Maybe not the start of his prime, but the prime nonetheless.
and he's in his prime baby face era. I want to see that heel run, because I think that heel run would be the thing where you go, right, if that draws like really well and does that kind of like elevates business as it could do if done correctly, then I'd feel like, yeah, you put him in there. And then there's all the other business case stuff with him setting up AEW and various things around like the reinvention of himself and how important he's been in several different companies. Is absolutely fine. It's like the same thing with Punk. I want to see the big Punk returning, corporate Punk heel role in WWE. We're getting it. We're just not getting the overt heel run part of it.
Won't be good,
but we're getting, yeah, it won't be good.
It'll be like 7 out of 10 compared to a 10 out of 10. Like it'll be 70% what we actually want.
It's not that version, and then the other lads, it's just like, well, yeah, if you're a wrestling historian, I get the argument for putting them in, but it's very much like when WWE put people into the Legacy Hall of Fame. Like you're not really, they're not contemporaries of ours.
Right? That's fair
exactly.
Like,
no issue with. Yeah, I think that's where you got the split. You got like the kind of newer fans who are going to vote for your Punks and your Codys, and then at the other end, you've got the historians who've got these people need to be included, and there's fair enough reasons for that.
It was like Sting going in for me. Sting was a watermark moment because it felt for years like most of the journalists I pay attention to, well, like we all love him. If you grew up on him, you see him as a top guy. But if you actually analyze the business and all of that, Sting, by the metrics of the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame, like had that didn't really have a case for a lot of people, and then it just felt like the voter base got younger, and it's like, yeah, but remember him, and also look at him, look how much fun he is in AEW when he got in, and I think the dynamic of the Hall of Fame changed. But again, I'm not getting into that again, like we did with Roman Reigns last year. What's done is done.
Yep, exactly, and it's there at this stage. But and then it's maybe the bigger question is the relevancy of what the Observer Hall of Fame kind of represents for what it is. Is it really? Is it at some stage? Is it the newer voters plus what is effectively the Cauliflower Alley Hall of Fame? That's it's like these yeah, it is, isn't it? I suppose so. I mean, yeah, I don't want it to go away or anything else. I just think it's at a point where there's kind of slim pickings, and as guys wrestle, quite late on into their careers and things like this, like you're getting to this point where these guys who are going to end up being included, particularly by those younger fans and voters.
People with nostalgia for the 2010s, Matt Cardona, Nick Nemeth, they're all coming soon. Mark my words. But there you go. That's our appeal to Dave Meltzer. Come on, mate. Give us the vote again. You forgot our email addresses. We got it for like 2 years in a row, didn't we? And then he stopped sending it over. Come on, hsmeltzer@gmail.com. Sort us out, will you? But there we go. That's the only other thing I had to mention here, JP. Unless you've got anything else, we should obviously plug again, if you haven't heard it already. The A Giant Year for Mankind 1999 show that we put out this week is definitely one I'd recommend, and plenty more where that came from, JP.
Yep, there is. There's loads and loads of great stuff coming on this month. We've got, obviously, like you mentioned, One Giant Year for Mankind. This Saturday, in the build-up to All In, I'll be hosting another edition of the Grapple Pub Quiz. So I'm hoping to continue on the great work that Matty did with the first one. I know you won that. You're the defending champion. So, yeah, Connor, you're right. Well, he's doing work for me on this as well. So maybe that very much is going to be the case. So we're doing that on Saturday. We're going to be doing that along, in the build up to as well. We're going to have a pre-show as well in there beforehand. Obviously, we're going to be doing... Yeah. Oh, exactly. And then we'll be doing the full review of Full Gear on Monday Spotlight, and hopefully MLW and Don Gator Tequila as well. Then we're in Survivor Series mode, and we've got on that final Sunday, Kid, a Grapple 6 tape, which is, again, will always get a laugh out of me. That's what we've got on the Patreon. There, some really great stuff on there as well. 6 matches, all of the all great goodness from the I would say the big man, medium-sized man, small Sean Waltman himself. So yeah, where do you get all of this goodness, you are wondering? Well, patreon.com/grapple or youtube.com/@grapple.
While you're there on YouTube, chuck us a like, chuck us a comment. I know it's late to ask for that. Always get told off by Chris Lene for that, but it does help genuinely to help us with everything. Same for Benno and Hamflet. Actually, while you're on YouTube, go to youtube.com/@BennoHamflet. We did put out a housekeeping out that was pre-recorded earlier in the month as we talked WrestleMania 13, Brett and Austin. Was it a double turn? Wasn't it a double turn? And all of the other things surrounding a very, very interesting period in wrestling history as we very much move on from the child years of the WWF in your house into the very, very interesting, awkward, and much more adult teenage years of In Your House. And obviously we had the show with Andrew Ogden a couple of weeks ago came out where we reviewed In Your House Final Four. If you haven't checked that out, do check that out. I thought Andy was incredible on that show. And we had a great chat. So please check that out too if you haven't listened to it already. But nearing the end of season 1, we've got a couple more episodes to go before things get a bit dark, JP. We're going to have to start changing fonts. It's going to get a bit, black and grey backgrounds, red spiky words. Me and Hamflet might have to swear a little bit. It's all coming soon. So get in while it's early and be an early adopter of Benno and Hamflet. But yeah, outside of that, anything else for you to plug, JP?
No, that's pretty much it for everything. Yeah, like I said, hype, subscribe, all of those YouTube videos. Make sure you're doing that. I still believe
those hypes exist, but Matty says they do, so please do.
He loves it.
Help us somewhere. I appreciate it. But yeah, as always, thank you, patrons. Thanks to our live patrons for tuning in with us this week on a bit of a random Thursday night. And as always, thank you to our kings and queens of the mountain. We have Conor Loughlin, Eddie Sarburns, Chris Black, Carl Gack, Sophie Hitchcock, Simon Mulvaney, and of course, Marty Ellis, who's a great Mankind show we did this week as well to thank. So thank you guys. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Enjoy the pay-per-view on Saturday. Enjoy the grapple quiz if you're joining us. And we'll be back with our AEW Full Gear review after that too. Good night, all.
Bye.
See ya.